Midnight, the jungle breathes. In the darkness beneath Tikal's great plaza, a priest climbs stone steps he can no longer see. His feet know the way. They have climbed these steps 10,000 times, but tonight the gods are silent. The rain has not come. Between 800 and 900 CE, something broke, not suddenly, like a fallen tree, slowly, like a drought that never ends. The greatest civilization in the Americas, a culture that had calculated the movements of Venus, built cities larger than London, and carved their history into eternal stone, simply walked away. They left their pyramids, they abandoned their palaces, and within a generation, the jungle swallowed everything. What could make millions of people leave behind 1,000 years of achievement? This is not a story about one king or one battle. This is a story about the end of a world, about what happens when the rain stops falling, when the corn stops growing, when neighbor turns against neighbor, and when the cities that took centuries to build empty in decades. The Maya called this period the ending of the long count cycle. We call it the classic period collapse, but the Maya who lived through it, they called it something else. They called it the time when the gods looked away. We will walk through their final century together. We will stand in their plazas as the wells run dry. We will watch the great monuments fall silent. And perhaps, in their story, we will find something about ourselves, about how civilizations rise, about how they fall, and about what it means when people must choose between staying and surviving. The jungle is waiting. The ruins are ready. Let us begin at the beginning, before the end, when the Maya world stood at its absolute height. Chapter 1. The flowering, when the Maya world reached its zenith, 750 CE. The height of the classic period. Stand on the summit of Tikal's Temple 4, the tallest structure in the pre-Columbian Americas, and look out across the Petun jungle. What you see is not wilderness. It is a managed landscape, a civilization at its absolute peak. 40,000 people live in Tikal's urban core. Another 100,000 farm the surrounding territory, connected by raised causeways that cut straight through swamps and forest. These are not primitive farmers scratching survival from hostile jungle. These are hydraulic engineers. They have reshaped the land itself. Look down. The valleys between pyramids are not natural. They are massive reservoirs, collecting every drop of rain that falls on these stone surfaces. Engineers calculated the angles. They shaped the plaza floors to channel water. During the 8-month rainy season, these reservoirs fill. During the 4-month dry season, the city drinks from them 150,000 cubic meters of stored water, enough for 50,000 people for 4 months. The math worked. For 500 years, the math worked. The plaza fills each market day. Obsidian from Guatemala, jade from the Motagua Valley, salt from coastal evaporation ponds, cacao beans. The currency of this world, carefully counted into cotton bags. Quetzal feathers worth more than gold, because gold is merely decorative, but Quetzal feathers prove you command the mountain trade routes. A merchant from Copán has traveled 14 days to reach this market. He brings grinding stones, carved from volcanic rock, perfectly shaped for processing corn. He will return with obsidian blades, sharper than steel. The trade networks extend for 1,000 miles, from the highlands to the sea, from the Yucatan to Honduras. The Maya world is not isolated city-states. It is an interconnected civilization, bound by language, calendar, commerce, and shared belief. 50 independent kingdoms, each ruled by a Kuhu Ajah, a divine lord, each claiming descent from the gods, each building higher pyramids, carving longer texts, demonstrating greater power. Competition drives innovation. Competition drives art. Competition drives war. But for now, in 750 CE, the system balances. Wars happen, but they are scheduled. Battles coincide with Venus risings. Captives are taken for ritual sacrifice, not territorial conquest. The losers rebuild. The winners carve their victories in stone, and the rain keeps falling. This is the world of Jasa Chankawil, 26th ruler of Tikal. His name means sky-born sky lightning. His pyramid tomb will become Temple 1, rising 47 meters above the plaza floor. But he does not know that yet. In 750, he is in his prime. He has defeated Kalak Mul, Tikal's ancient rival. He has captured their king. He has bound him and paraded him through Tikal's streets before sacrificing him on the temple steps. The victory is carved in stone. The victory is absolute. Jasa Chankawil believes his dynasty will last forever. Why would he not? His ancestors ruled here for 400 years. The pyramids seem eternal. The system seems unbreakable. The gods seem satisfied. 3 generations. That is all the time that remains. 3 generations until his great-great-grandchildren preside over abandoned plazas. Until the silence falls. Until the jungle returns. But the warning signs are already there if you know where to look. The cenotes know. These sacred wells, natural sinkholes where limestone collapses and exposes groundwater, have sustained Maya civilization for 2,000 years. The Yucatan has no rivers. Rainwater vanishes instantly into porous limestone. But sometimes the rock collapses. Sometimes a hole opens to the water table below. These are the sacred wells, the portals to Xibalba, the underworld, the places where priests lower offerings on ropes and pray to the rain god Chaac. The cenotes are measuring devices, natural wells that record water table levels as precisely as any modern instrument. And in the mid-800s, the water begins to drop. Slowly, imperceptibly to anyone living through it year by year. But the geological record will show it clearly. The water table drops. The dry seasons grow longer. The rainy seasons become unpredictable. Climate science will eventually reveal what the Maya could not see: the intertropical convergence zone, the band of tropical rainfall that circles the Earth, is shifting. Solar forcing, volcanic eruptions, ocean temperature patterns. The science is complex. The result is simple: less rain. Not enough to abandon everything immediately, but enough, just enough. A 5% reduction in annual rainfall, a 10% reduction in some decades, enough to stress a system built on precise calculations, enough to empty the reservoirs 3 weeks early, enough to force impossible choices. But this is still decades away. In 750, the corn grows tall, the granaries overflow, the population continues to climb. Tikal has reached 40,000, Calakmul maybe 50,000, Copán 20,000, Palenque, Caracol, Yaxchilan. The great cities ring the Maya lowlands like jewels in a crown. 2 million people, perhaps more, the highest population density in the Americas, higher than many parts of Europe. They have achieved this through genius, through terracing hillsides and building raised fields and swamps, through crop rotation and companion planting, through storing corn in sealed chambers where it can last 3 years, through every technological advantage their civilization can muster. But technology rests on rainfall, and rainfall rests on climate patterns beyond any civilization's control. The Maya are not passive victims. They will adapt. They will innovate. They will fight to survive. But they are fighting atmospheric physics, and atmospheric physics always wins. Chapter 2. The first cracks when the patterns begin to shift. 800 CE, 50 years after Tikal's triumph, the priest astronomers notice first. They are the most educated men in Maya society. They track Venus through its 584-day cycle. They predict eclipses years in advance. They maintain calendars of staggering complexity. The Tzolk'in sacred calendar of 260 days, the Hab solar calendar of 365 days, the long count spanning millions of years. They can calculate backwards to the creation date, 13 Baktuns, 0 Katuns, 0 Unals, 0 Kins. August 11th, 3314 BCE by our calendar, the day the current world began. And they noticed the weather patterns shifting. The rainy season begins late, not dramatically, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, within normal variation. But at the edge of it, the farmers adjust their planting schedules. The corn still grows, but the margin narrows. The dry season lasts longer. The reservoirs drop lower than usual before the rains return. Again, nothing catastrophic, but the priests take note. They consult their records. They compare this year to the previous year to the 10 years before that, and they see a pattern, subtle, undeniable. The rain is changing. They write it down in codices, books made from bark paper and covered with gesso. They record the rainfall patterns, the crop yields, the reservoir levels. They search their histories for precedent, and they find it. 300 years ago, around 500 CE, there was a drought. Cities were abandoned in the southern lowlands. Populations declined, but civilization recovered. The Maya adapted. New cities rose, new dynasties began. The system proved resilient. This knowledge gives them confidence. We have survived before. We will survive again. But what they do not know, what they cannot know, is that the coming drought will be different, longer, deeper, and arriving when Maya population has reached its absolute peak. When every cultivatable acre is already under production, when there is no empty land to expand into. The drought of 500 CE struck a civilization with room to maneuver. The drought of 800 CE will strike a civilization already operating at maximum capacity. One more fact they cannot know: this drought will last not years, but generations. Century-scale climate shift, the kind that destroys civilizations. But in 800, these are concerns, not crises. The corn still grows, the cities still build, and the wars continue. 806 CE, the last dated monument at Pomona. The city goes silent. 808 CE, the last dated monument at Piedras Negras. A power that ruled for 4 centuries simply stops carving history into stone. 810 CE, El Zapote, Ixcun, Itzan Jimbal. One by one, cities stop dating their monuments. Not all cities, not yet. But the pattern spreads like a disease. The traditional explanation is war, and war certainly plays its part. As resources grow scarcer, as droughts strain the food supply, as populations press against carrying capacity, the ritual battles become something else. They become territorial conquest. They become warfare for survival. Dos Pilas falls in 800 CE, sacked by Tamarindito. The survivors flee. They dismantle their ancestors' monuments and use the carved stones to build a defensive wall around a much smaller settlement. Imagine that desperation, tearing down your grandfather's pyramid to build a wall, forgetting glory to embrace survival. But war is not the cause. War is the symptom. Civilizations do not collapse because they fight. They fight because they are collapsing, because the rain has stopped falling, because the corn has stopped growing, because there is not enough. 822 CE, Copán's last dated monument. This city, where the science of astronomy reached its pinnacle, where Altar Q recorded the succession of 16 kings, where the hieroglyphic stairway told the dynasty's complete history in 2,500 glyphs, falls silent. No final battle, no dramatic end, just silence. The population does not disappear overnight. Archaeological evidence shows gradual decline. Elite families leave first. The monument building stops. The scribal tradition ends. But farmers continue working the land for generations. Eventually, even they drift away. By the time Spanish conquistadors arrive, 700 years later, they find ruins and rumors, but no memory of who built these impossible cities. 839 CE, Quirigua, Tikal, Xunantunich, the last dates. 859 CE, Caracal falls silent. The collapse moves roughly west to east. The southern cities fall first. The great powers of the Petan, the heartland of classic Maya civilization, abandon their centers. The northern cities in the Yucatan survive longer. Some even thrive for a time, as refugees bring skills and knowledge north. But the end is coming for them too, just more slowly. The question archaeologists debate is why. What actually broke? Climate change? Yes. Drought? Certainly. But those are conditions, not mechanisms. How does a civilization of 2 million people with sophisticated agriculture, vast trade networks, and centuries of accumulated knowledge simply unravel? The answer is not simple. The answer is everything at once. The reservoirs empty first, not in one season, but across decades. Each year, they refill a little less. Each dry season, they empty a little sooner. The margin for error, that careful calculation of surface area times rainfall times population, that margin disappears. Imagine being the hydraulic engineer who designed this system. Your grandfather's grandfather built the original reservoir. Your father expanded it. You refined it. The math was perfect. 150,000 cubic meters of storage, 40,000 people, 4 months of dry season. The equation balanced. You carved your name into the dedication stela with pride. But now, the equation no longer balances. Not because your engineering failed, because the climate changed. The rainfall decreased by 8%. 8% sounds minor, but 8% of 150,000 cubic meters is 12,000 cubic meters. 12,000 cubic meters means the water runs out 3 weeks early. And 3 weeks without water in tropical heat with 40,000 people means crisis. You cannot engineer your way out of atmospheric physics. You cannot build bigger reservoirs if there is less rain to fill them. You cannot calculate a solution when the fundamental variables have changed. The corn fails next. Not completely, not everywhere, but reliably enough to matter. Maya agriculture is brilliantly adapted to the environment. The milpa system, planting corn, beans, and squash together, creates complementary relationships. The corn provides structure for beans to climb. The beans fix nitrogen in the soil. The squash spreads across the ground, retaining moisture and blocking weeds. Burned wood ash fertilizes the soil. Crop rotation prevents depletion. The system is elegant. The system is sustainable. But the system requires rain. Corn needs water at specific growth stages. If drought strikes during pollination, the ears develop incompletely. If drought strikes during grain fill, the kernels shrivel. And if drought strikes year after year, the stored reserves deplete. That 3-year supply in sealed granaries becomes a 2-year supply, then 1 year, then nothing. The Maya try everything. They terrace more hillsides. They drain more swamps for raised fields. They shorten the fallow periods, pushing soil fertility to its limits. They pray. They sacrifice. They build new temples to the rain god Chaac, his goggle eyes and curling snout carved with desperate devotion. The gods do not answer, or perhaps they answer with silence, which is itself an answer. 840 CE, Tikal, the great plaza fills for the new fire ceremony, held once every 52 years when the Tzolk'in sacred calendar and the Hab solar calendar realign. A moment of cosmic significance, a moment when the world might end or might continue. The king, descendant of Jasa Chan Kawil, performs bloodletting. He pierces his tongue with a stingray spine, pulling a rope threaded with thorns through the wound. His blood falls onto bark paper, which is burned. The smoke carries his sacrifice to the gods. His vision quest, induced by pain and blood loss, and possibly hallucinogenic compounds, will determine the kingdom's fate for the next cycle. Around him, thousands watch. They have brought offerings: jade, quetzal feathers, cacao, copal incense, pottery filled with maize gruel. They pray for rain. They pray for full granaries. They pray for the same stability their grandparents knew. But the king's vision is troubled. The sources do not record what he sees, only that the ceremony completes and life continues. But the archaeological record shows what happens next. Monumental construction slows dramatically. No more grand pyramids, no more elaborate palaces. Resources redirect to basic infrastructure, to reinforcing reservoir walls, to expanding agricultural terraces, to survival rather than glory. The Maya understand their world is changing. They are not blind to the crisis, but understanding and solving are different things. They understand the rain has decreased. They understand the population has grown. They understand the system is stressed, but what can they do? They cannot make it rain. They cannot reduce the population voluntarily. They cannot abandon centuries of achievement and simply walk away. Not yet. The social contract begins to fracture. For centuries, the Maya political system functioned on reciprocity. The Kahul Ajau, the divine lord, claimed descent from the gods. He interceded with supernatural forces on behalf of his people. In exchange, the people provided labor for monument building, tribute for the royal household, and loyalty in war. But the contract assumes the king can deliver. When his prayers bring rain, when his rituals ensure successful harvests, when his sacrifices maintain cosmic order, the system works. The people see evidence of divine favor. They believe in the sacred kingship. When the rain does not come, the contract weakens. The king performs the same ceremonies. He sheds the same blood. He offers the same sacrifices, but the reservoirs still empty. The corn still fails, and slowly, quietly, the people begin to doubt, not suddenly, not with rebellion or revolution, but with 1,000 small withdrawals. A family decides not to contribute labor to the temple construction. A village keeps more of its harvest rather than sending it as tribute. A merchant chooses not to trade in the capital city. Each decision is rational, individual, and nearly invisible, but collectively, they represent the dissolution of centralized authority. The elite families notice. They respond by fortifying their compounds, by storing more resources, by hiring guards. The distance between the noble houses and the common quarters grows, literally and metaphorically. Walls go up. Social mobility freezes. The last pretense of shared fate disappears. And yet, the elite continue to bury their dead with extraordinary wealth. Jade masks covering the faces of deceased kings. Pottery vessels filled with food for the journey to Ixalba. Sacrificed servants to attend the royal dead. The tombs tell us the ruling class maintained their wealth even as the system collapsed around them. This is a pattern repeated throughout history. As civilizations decline, inequality often increases. The powerful concentrate remaining resources. They insulate themselves from crisis. They continue their traditional displays of status even as, especially as, the foundation crumbles. But jade and pottery cannot buy rain. Divine status cannot feed hungry people. And eventually, inevitably, the people make a different calculation. They look at the failing crops. They look at the empty reservoirs. They look at the pyramids that took generations to build and decades to fall silent. And they make the hardest choice humans can make. They leave. Chapter 3. The Great Dispersal. When the people walked away, 850 CE, across the Maya lowlands, a migration begins. Not coordinated, not sudden, but inexorable. A farmer wakes before dawn in a house his great-grandfather built. He has worked these fields for 30 years. He knows every tree, every stone, every seasonal variation in his plot. But this year, for the third year in succession, the rains came late and weak. His stored corn is gone. His children are hungry. The city demands tribute he cannot pay. He makes the calculation. Stay and likely starve. Leave and possibly survive. The choice is obvious. The choice is devastating. He takes what can be carried, a grinding stone, heavy but essential, ceramic vessels for water, seeds saved from the last decent harvest, his wife's weaving tools. The children carry their own small bundles. His mother, too old to walk far, chooses to stay. She will die in the house where she was born. She considers this proper. They leave at dawn. They do not announce their departure. They do not seek permission from the local noble or the city administrators. They simply go, disappearing into the forest along paths their ancestors used for generations, heading north, where rumors say the cities still function, or heading to the coasts, where fishing provides food when farming fails, or simply heading away toward anywhere that might offer survival. Multiply this scene by 10,000, by 100,000, by 1,000,000, and you begin to understand the scale of the Maya collapse. Not conquest, not plague, not foreign invasion, just people making rational individual decisions that collectively amount to civilizational dissolution. The houses sit empty, pottery still on the shelves, grinding stones in place. The occupants intended to return, or perhaps they could not bear to make the departure feel permanent. Perhaps leaving the house intact allowed them to imagine this was temporary, a bad season, a difficult decade. But eventually, the rains would return. Eventually, they could come home. They do not return. The forest moves faster than memory. Within 5 years, vines cover the doorways. Within 20 years, trees root in the house foundations. Within 50 years, the houses are mounds in the forest floor, their original purpose erased by vegetation. But some leave evidence, deliberately hidden caches. Pottery vessels buried in house corners, filled with jade beads or obsidian blades. Precious things too valuable to carry, but too precious to abandon. buried with the hope of retrieval, buried with the expectation of return. Archaeologists find these caches 1,000 years later. The pottery intact, the jade still glowing its supernatural green, the obsidian still sharp, waiting for owners who never came back. The refugees carry knowledge with them. Scribes who memorized hieroglyphic combinations, potters who know the proper clay mixtures and firing temperatures, weavers with patterns passed through generations, farmers with seeds of proven varieties. This knowledge disperses. Some of it reaches the northern cities and contributes to their temporary fluorescence. Some of it travels to highland communities where traditional Maya culture persists. Some of it simply disappears, dying with the last person who remembered. The most tragic losses are the codices, the bark paper books containing accumulated knowledge, astronomical tables, historical records, religious texts, agricultural manuals. The Maya were one of only 5 civilizations to independently develop true writing. Their script could express any spoken thought. Their books contained the intellectual heritage of 2,000 years. Most burn, whether deliberately destroyed in rituals acknowledging defeat, or accidentally lost when houses collapse, or simply abandoned as too heavy to carry and too fragile to preserve. The codices disappear. Of the thousands that must have existed, only 4 survive to the present day. 4 books. 4 windows into a literary tradition that rivaled ancient Greece or Han China. 4 survivors of cultural catastrophe. We know this happened because Spanish priests recorded doing the same thing 600 years later. Bishop Diego de Landa, arriving in Yucatan in 1549, gathered all the Maya codices he could find and burned them publicly. He wrote, "We found a large number of books in these characters, and as they contain nothing in which were not to be seen as superstition and lies of the devil, we burned them all." But the Spanish were not the first to burn Maya knowledge. The Maya themselves began the destruction during the collapse, not from ignorance or hatred, but from despair. If the knowledge could not save them, if astronomical precision and ritual calendars and accumulated wisdom could not bring rain, then perhaps that knowledge was cursed. Perhaps the gods demanded its destruction. Perhaps starting over required erasing the past. We will never know what those codices contained. What astronomical discoveries? What historical accounts? What poetry or philosophy or medical knowledge? The loss is incalculable. The loss is permanent. The pyramids stand empty. No more ceremonies, no more bloodletting rituals, no more calendar round celebrations. The elite families have fled or died. The scribal schools have closed. The craftsmen have dispersed. The systems that maintain these monuments, the social organization, the resource allocation, the shared belief, have dissolved. Some cities maintain skeleton populations, caretakers, holdouts, traditionalists who refuse to accept the new reality. They perform abbreviated ceremonies in empty plazas. They maintain the sacred fires. They wait for the people to return. The people do not return. Within a generation, even the caretakers abandon their posts. The sacred fires go out. The plazas empty completely, and the jungle, patient as geological time, begins its reconquest. Chapter 4: The Northern Survival. when some cities endured. But not all Maya cities fell. While the southern lowlands collapsed into silence, the northern Yucatan witnessed a different story. A story of adaptation, transformation, and temporary triumph. Chichen Itza. The name means at the mouth of the well of the Itza. The Itza being one of several Maya groups migrating north from the collapsing southern cities. The well being the sacred cenote, that massive natural sinkhole, providing reliable water even during drought. Geography determined survival. The Yucatan's porous limestone bedrock meant no surface rivers, but also meant access to the water table through cenotes. While southern cities watched their reservoirs empty, northern cities simply lowered their ropes deeper into the cenotes. The water was always there, harder to reach during severe drought, but always there. Chichen Itza's sacred cenote measures 60 meters across and drops 27 meters to the water surface. During times of desperate need, priests lower offerings, jade, gold, copal incense, sometimes human sacrifices, into these dark waters. The cenote accepts all offerings. The cenote never runs dry. This geographical advantage allows Chichen Itza to absorb refugees from collapsing southern cities. Population actually increases during the 9th century. New construction occurs, new monuments rise. But the city changes. The influx of people brings new ideas, new architectural styles, new artistic traditions. Some scholars see Toltec influence from central Mexico. Others argue it's simply Maya culture evolving under pressure. The Great Ball Court at Chichen Itza stretches 166 meters long, larger than an American football field. The walls rise 9 meters high, decorated with carved panels showing ball players and ritual sacrifice. The game played here is more than sport. It is cosmic drama. It reenacts the hero twins' victory over the Lords of Death in Xibalba. The rubber ball represents the sun. The court represents the portal between worlds. The acoustic properties are extraordinary. A person standing at one end can hear a whisper from the other end, 166 meters away. Intentional design or happy accident? We do not know, but the effect is dramatic. The sound of the ball striking the court reverberates like thunder. The cheers of spectators multiply and echo. The space feels charged with supernatural presence. Some games end with sacrifice. The carved panels show decapitated ball players, blood streams becoming serpents. Which team provides the sacrifice? Traditional interpretation said the losers die. Recent scholarship suggests winners earned the honor of sacrifice. Either way, the ball court represents the civilization's ability to transform competition into ritual, violence into meaning, death into cosmic renewal. But meaning cannot substitute for food. Ritual cannot replace rain. And eventually, even Chichen Itza faces the same calculations that emptied the southern cities. 900 CE. The drought intensifies. Even cenotes drop to unprecedented levels. Chichen Itza survives, but the surrounding agricultural system strains. The city cannot feed a swollen population on reduced rainfall. The same calculation plays out. Stay or leave, die slowly, or risk the unknown. And there is another factor: war. Not the ritualized warfare of the classic period, scheduled battles, captured elites, carved victory monuments. Real war, desperate war, war for resources and survival. Evidence appears in the archaeological record. Fortifications built quickly from salvaged materials, mass graves showing violence, burned structures suggesting systematic destruction. The northern cities fight among themselves for control of agricultural zones, for access to cenotes, for dominance in a shrinking world. Chichen Itza maintains its power through the early 1900s, but competitors rise. Mayan, built with massive defensive walls. Uxmal, creating elaborate water collection systems. The political unity of the classic period, competitive but interconnected. Fragments into hostile city-states fighting over scraps. Imagine being the mason given orders to dismantle your city's monuments, structures your grandfather helped build, covered with your ancestors' achievements, and use those sacred stones to build defensive walls. The act requires abandoning everything your culture valued. History, glory, continuity, all sacrificed to immediate survival. But survival trumps tradition. And so the walls rise, rough, ugly, effective. The northern cities harden into fortresses. They survive into the 1000s, some into the 1100s. But they are diminished. The population smaller, the art less sophisticated, the writing system simplified, the astronomical observations less precise. The Maya civilization does not end. Maya people survive. Maya culture persists. Maya languages continue. But the classic period, the height of achievement, the age of pyramids and hieroglyphic inscriptions and astronomical precision, that age ends. The city's empty. The monuments fall silent. The jungle returns. By 950 CE, the transformation is complete. The classic Maya civilization has ended. Not with apocalypse, not with extinction, but with dispersal, adaptation, and profound loss. 2 million people at the height become perhaps 500,000 scattered across the landscape. 40 major cities become 10, then 5, then none, functioning at classic period levels. The books burned or rotted. The inscriptions stopped. The calendar calculations ceased. The knowledge dispersed or died with its keepers. And when Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 1500s, they found Maya people still farming, still weaving, still speaking their languages. But those Maya knew nothing of who built the enormous pyramids slowly being consumed by jungle. The cultural continuity had broken. The memory had failed. This is perhaps the saddest dimension of collapse. Not just the end of a civilization, but the erasure of its memory. The Maya themselves forgot their own greatest achievements. The pyramids became the work of giants, or gods, or mysterious ancients. The hieroglyphic inscriptions became decorative patterns whose meaning vanished. The astronomical knowledge became folklore and superstition. 500 years of darkness. 500 years when the monuments stood silent in the jungle, unknown to the outside world, barely remembered by descendants. And then, in the 1800s, explorers began reporting impossible ruins hidden in Central American rainforest, pyramids that rivaled Egypt, inscriptions in an unknown script, evidence of a lost civilization. The rediscovery began. The decipherment of the writing, the excavation of the cities, the revelation of Maya achievements to a world that had forgotten they existed. But that is another story. Our story is the ending, the collapse, the dispersal, the silence. Chapter 5. The Theories Multiply. How Scholars Explain Catastrophe. For decades, scholars debated what destroyed the classic Maya. Each generation of archaeologists brought new theories. Each theory reflected its era's concerns. In the early 1900s, when racial theories dominated Western science, some suggested the Maya were conquered by superior peoples. This theory collapsed when evidence showed no foreign invasion, no conquest layers in the archaeological record. The Maya were not defeated by outsiders. Something internal happened. Mid-century archaeologists, influenced by environmental movements, proposed ecological collapse. The Maya deforested their lands. They eroded their soil. They destroyed their own environmental base. This theory contained truth, but proved insufficient. Yes, the Maya cleared forest. Yes, they modified their landscape extensively. But they had done so successfully for 1,500 years. Why sudden collapse after centuries of sustainable practice? The 1980s and 90s saw warfare theories gain prominence. Skeletal evidence showed increasing violence. Fortifications appeared. Cities burned. Clearly, warfare played a role, but was it cause or symptom? Do civilizations collapse because they fight wars? Or do they fight wars because they're collapsing? Then, in the early 2000s, climate science advanced. Paleoclimatologists, scientists who reconstruct ancient climates, began analyzing lake sediments, cave formations, and coral growth rings. These natural archives record rainfall patterns with precision. The evidence became undeniable. Between roughly 800 and 1000 CE, the Maya lowlands experienced the most severe drought in 7,000 years. Not one drought, multiple drought events, a century-scale climate shift, years of below-average rainfall punctuated by occasional normal years that gave false hope. Then, more drought. The rain did not simply stop. That would have forced immediate adaptation. Instead, it became unreliable, unpredictable. Each planting season, a gamble. This discovery transformed Maya archaeology. Suddenly, all the other factors made sense. Not alternative theories, but compounding factors in a cascading system failure. Drought stressed agriculture. Stressed agriculture caused food shortages. Food shortages increased competition. Competition escalated into warfare. Warfare disrupted trade networks. Disrupted trade destroyed economic interdependence. Economic collapse undermined royal authority. Loss of authority broke the social contract. Broken social contract triggered migration. Migration emptied cities. Empty cities meant no labor for maintenance. Lack of maintenance accelerated physical decay. Decay symbolized divine abandonment. Perceived abandonment destroyed remaining legitimacy. and the cycle reinforced itself at every level. This is the current consensus among Maya scholars. The Classic period collapse resulted from climate change triggering cascading failures across interconnected systems. Not one cause, but many, all interacting in complex feedback loops. But even this explanation leaves questions. Climate changed, but climate changes cyclically. Droughts happen. Droughts had happened before. The Maya were sophisticated, adaptive, technologically advanced. Why could they not adjust? Why total collapse instead of managed contraction? The answer involves a concept archaeologists call overshoot. The Maya had optimized their system for favorable climate conditions. At the height, in 750 CE, their population and infrastructure matched their environment's carrying capacity. Every cultivatable acre was cultivated. Every reservoir was built. The system operated at maximum efficiency. This optimization created brittleness. When climate deteriorated, the system had no slack, no unused land to bring into production, no spare capacity in water storage, no demographic buffer. The Maya had engineered themselves into a corner. Maximum efficiency in good times meant maximum vulnerability in bad times. Modern parallels suggest themselves. Complex societies trade resilience for efficiency. They specialize, they optimize, they eliminate redundancy. This works beautifully until conditions change. Then specialized systems fail catastrophically, while generalized systems adapt. The tragedy of the Maya is not ignorance. They were brilliant. They calculated solar years to within minutes of accuracy. They predicted eclipses centuries in advance. They understood their world with scientific precision, but scientific understanding cannot overcome atmospheric physics. Knowing why it does not rain does not make it rain. The Maya could measure their crisis with exquisite precision. They could document their own decline in carved inscriptions and astronomical observations. But measurement is not solution. In 869 CE, at the site of Yukinau, a scribe carved the last known long count date from the Classic period. The inscription records a Katun ending, a period of 19.7 years, a traditional moment for ceremony and commemoration. The scribe carefully carved the date: 10 Baktuns, 4 Ketuns, 0 Tuns, 0 Kins, January 3rd, 899 CE. But the date is wrong. The scribe made a calculation error. After centuries of perfect astronomical and calendrical precision, the system itself was failing. The knowledge was being lost, the scribal tradition ending. This final inscription, carved with care but mathematically incorrect, stands as an epitaph for classic Maya civilization. They knew how to calculate time itself, but they could not save themselves. The stars do not care. Venus continues its 584-day cycle. The Pleiades rise and set, as they always have. The sun and moon maintain their eternal dance. The cosmos operates with perfect mathematical precision, indifferent to human achievement or human failure. The Maya understood this. Their astronomy was not sentimental. They did not imagine the stars cared about humanity, but they believed understanding cosmic order allowed humans to align with it. to time ceremonies with celestial events, to plant according to astronomical calendars, to maintain harmony between earth and sky. When the cities emptied, that knowledge dispersed, not immediately lost, but scattered. Some priests carried astronomical tables north to cities that survived longer. Some farmers remembered enough to maintain agricultural calendars. But the institutional knowledge, the scribal schools where young scholars learned to calculate centuries into the past and future, that infrastructure disappeared. Within 3 generations, no one could read the inscriptions. The hieroglyphic script became mysterious symbols. The astronomical carvings became decorative patterns. The accumulated wisdom became fragments, rumors, half-remembered traditions. This is how civilizations truly die. Not when the buildings collapse, but when the knowledge disappears, when no one remembers how to read the texts, when no one understands the calculations, when the achievements become myths. The jungle is patient. It does not attack. It simply persists. A seed lands in a crack between stones. It germinates. Roots grow, seeking nutrients and water. The roots widen the crack. More soil accumulates. More seeds arrive. Within decades, a tree grows from the pyramid's flank. Its roots interweave with the masonry. Eventually, the tree becomes load-bearing, the only thing preventing complete collapse. Archaeologists restoring Maya sites face an impossible choice: remove the trees and the structures collapse. Leave the trees and they continue causing damage. There is no solution that preserves both the architecture and reverses 500 years of jungle reclamation. The Maya who built these structures understood impermanence. They replastered their pyramids every Khatun, every 19.7 years. They repainted the murals. They carved new inscriptions over old ones. They built new temples atop previous temples. They knew maintenance required constant effort. The moment effort ceased, decay began. And when the cities emptied, effort ceased immediately. Within a single generation, the plaster began flaking. The paint faded. Wooden roof beams rotted. Thatch roofs collapsed. Plazas disappeared under leaves and soil. The transformation from living city to forest occurred faster than anyone anticipated. We can track the speed of abandonment through stratigraphy, the layers of deposits in archaeological excavations. At Copán, excavators found a layer of debris from a collapsed roof. On top of that layer, forest soil containing charcoal and seeds. Carbon dating puts the forest soil at just 20 years after abandonment. 20 years. A single generation. That is how quickly 1,000 years of human effort disappeared. But the stone survived. Limestone blocks weighing multiple tons do not wash away. They sink into soil. They become covered by organic matter. But they remain, waiting, preserving information even when no one can read it. This accidental preservation allowed the eventual rediscovery. If the Maya had built in wood, nothing would remain. If they had written on materials less durable than stone, we would know almost nothing. The limestone they chose, the stone their ancestors worshipped as the bones of the earth, became their only voice across the silence. Chapter 6: The Human Stories, What It Felt Like to Live the Ending. Her name is not recorded. The scribes did not chronicle the lives of common women, but we know she existed. The archaeological evidence shows it. Skeletal remains, chemical analysis of bones revealing diet, wear patterns on teeth indicating food preparation methods. We can reconstruct her life even without knowing her name. Born around 820 CE, a farmer's daughter in the hinterlands of a city we now call Dos Pilas. Her childhood coincides with increasing instability. Her parents speak in worried tones about tribute demands from the capital, about neighboring villages being raided, about dry season lasting longer than it should. She marries at 15, not unusual for her society. Her husband farms a plot his family has worked for generations. They grow corn, beans, squash. They trade surplus for other goods. Salt, obsidian, ceramic vessels. The system still functions. Barely. She bears 4 children. 2 survive infancy. This is better than average for her time. Skeletal evidence shows increasing childhood mortality during the collapse period. Malnutrition, disease. The signs appear in bones, growth disruptions, dental hypoplasia, pitting indicating anemia. The meals grow smaller, year by year. Not dramatically, not enough to cause immediate starvation, but enough to matter. Enough to weaken. Enough that when disease comes, and disease always comes, the weakened die while the well-fed survive. She loses a child to fever, 8 years old. A bright boy who was learning to farm alongside his father. The fever lasted 3 days. They tried everything: herbal remedies, prayers, a visit to the village shaman. Nothing worked. He died. They buried him with a ceramic bowl containing cornmeal for his journey to Xibalba. In a healthy society, at full nutrition, he might have survived, but he was malnourished. His immune system weakened by chronic hunger. The fever won. This happens everywhere, across the Maya lowlands. Thousands of families, thousands of similar stories, small tragedies multiplying into systemic collapse. The statistics become impersonal. Population decline, mortality rates, archaeological evidence. But each statistic represents a mother watching her child die, a father burying his son, a grandmother remembering when there was enough food. The village meets to decide. 30 families, perhaps 150 people total. The head man, not a noble, just the oldest respected farmer, leads the discussion. Should they stay or go? Arguments for staying. This land has sustained them for generations. Their ancestors are buried here. The houses are built. The fields are cleared. Starting over somewhere else means abandoning everything. Means becoming refugees, dependent on others' charity. Means admitting defeat. Arguments for leaving. The last harvest was terrible. The stored corn will not last until the next planting season. The tribute collectors still come from the city, taking what little they have. The northern cities supposedly still function, still have water, still offer work. Staying might mean slow death. Leaving might offer survival. The debate lasts hours. Voices rise. A few argue violently. Most speak quietly. aware that no good option exists. Finally, consensus emerges. Not unanimous, never unanimous, but enough agreement to move forward. The decision: young people without children will go north, seeking work, seeking opportunity, seeking anything better. They will send word if they find something viable. The older people, the very young, the ones with ties that cannot be severed, they will stay. They will harvest what they can. They will hope for rain. They will wait. This compromise satisfies no one, but it prevents complete, immediate abandonment. It keeps hope alive. It allows both adaptation and continuity. Her surviving son leaves, 19 years old, strong despite malnutrition, clever despite lack of formal education. He hugs his mother. She presses seeds into his hand, saved from the last decent harvest. "Plant these," she says, "wherever you end up." She does not say if, she says where. She gives him hope, even though she has little herself. He walks north. With 5 others from the village, they follow trade routes their ancestors used for centuries. But now they see evidence of collapse everywhere. Abandoned way stations, empty villages, fields reverting to forest. They meet other refugees, some heading north like themselves, some heading south, having found the north no better, some simply wandering, having no destination, just moving because staying anywhere means death. 3 weeks of walking, they reach a city, a northern city that still functions. Not at classic period levels, not with the grandeur they heard about in stories, but functioning. The markets operate. The pyramids still host ceremonies. The nobles still rule. But the city does not want refugees. It has its own problems, its own food shortages, its own water stress. Every refugee means another mouth to feed. The city guards turn most away. A few get through: young men strong enough for labor, young women beautiful enough for household service, craftsmen with valuable skills. He gets through, barely. They need workers to expand agricultural terraces, desperate work, backbreaking labor clearing forest and building stone retaining walls. But it pays in food, not currency, not prestige, not anything portable, just daily rations. Enough to survive. He works, he adapts. He does not send word back to his village, because what would he say? Come here and be poor? Stay there and be poor? The choice is not between good and bad, but between different types of hardship. After 3 years, he stops thinking about returning. The village becomes memory. His mother becomes someone he once knew. His identity shifts. He is no longer from there. He is from here. Or more accurately, from nowhere. One of the displaced, one of the forgotten, one of millions whose individual stories dissolve into the larger narrative of collapse. The nobles suffer differently, not from hunger. They have stored resources, not from displacement. They own the land. They suffer from the erosion of meaning. From watching the system, their identity depends on disintegrating. A minor noble in a secondary city. His lineage traces back 6 generations to a legitimately distinguished ancestor. His title is hereditary. his authority once unchallenged. But now, his farmers are leaving, slowly at first, then faster. He cannot stop them. Technically, they owe him service. Technically, leaving violates ancient obligations. But what enforcement exists? His own guards have dwindled. The central authority that once backed his claims has collapsed. He can demand obedience, but he cannot compel it. His wealth means nothing if there is nothing to buy. He has jade, obsidian, fine ceramics. But the trading networks have broken. The merchants no longer come. The cacao beans that served as currency are worthless if no one will accept them. He performs ceremonies, because ceremonies are what nobles do. He bloodlets according to the calendar. He sponsors what remains of ritual observances, but the plazas that once filled with thousands now contain dozens. The grandeur has drained away, leaving only form without substance. The scribes watch their profession disappear. Writing was elite knowledge, specialized training beginning in childhood. Years learning the hundreds of hieroglyphic combinations, understanding grammar, syntax, poetic structures, mastering historical records and astronomical calculations. But scribal schools require resources, require institutional support, require political stability, require a society that values knowledge enough to divert food from hungry mouths, to feed scholars who produce nothing tangible. As the collapse progresses, that support evaporates. Nobles stop sponsoring scribes. Schools close. The young men who would have become the next generation of scholars become farmers or warriors or refugees instead. One scribe continues, old, trained, in better times. He possesses knowledge that no one else remembers. He knows this. He continues working because to stop would mean acknowledging the end. His codex records the dynasty's history. He writes carefully, beautifully, knowing it may be the last such document ever created. He dies before finishing. The codex remains incomplete. No one continues his work. No one can. Within a generation, no one in this city can read what he wrote. The codex sits in a noble's house for decades, valued as an object, but incomprehensible as text. Eventually it deteriorates. Moisture, insects, time. The bark paper turns to dust. The painted symbols fade. The knowledge disappears. This happens everywhere. The literate tradition, 2,000 years old, ends within 2 or 3 generations. One of only 5 independently developed writing systems in human history simply stops being used. Imagine being the last person who can read. Not metaphorically, literally. You are the last living human who understands the hieroglyphic script. You can look at carved monuments and understand what they say. You can read the codices. You can interpret the astronomical tables. You possess knowledge that took centuries to develop, and you know it dies with you. You have tried teaching, but there are no students. The social infrastructure that produced students no longer exists. The young people have more pressing concerns: finding food, surviving, adapting to a world without certainty. You read the inscriptions one last time. The victory monuments of great kings, the astronomical calculations of brilliant scholar priests, the poetry the history, the accumulated wisdom. You are the last witness, the last person for whom these symbols are language rather than decoration. Then you die, perhaps from disease, perhaps from age, perhaps from violence. It does not matter how. What matters is that when you die, the ability to read classic Maya hieroglyphic writing dies with you. The carved stones remain. The information persists, physically present, but it has become inaccessible, encrypted by the loss of linguistic knowledge. It will remain encrypted for more than 1,000 years until modern scholars begin the slow process of decipherment in the mid-20th century. Chapter 7. The Final Generation, the Last to Remember. 900 CE. A generation has passed since the collapse began. The people who remember the height, who remember full plazas and grand ceremonies and abundant harvests, are old now. Grandparents, great-grandparents, their memories contradict their grandchildren's reality. A grandfather tells stories about when this plaza filled with 10,000 people for the Katoon ending ceremony, about when the king's procession required an hour to pass, about when the markets offered goods from 1,000 miles away, about when water flowed freely and food was abundant. His grandchildren listen politely. They think he exaggerates. Perhaps his memory fails. Perhaps he confuses reality with myth. They have never seen anything like what he describes. They have only known shortage, decline, struggle. The grandeur he remembers seems impossible, but he remembers, and he knows he tells truth. He can point to specific structures. That pyramid, I helped carry stones for its construction when I was young. That palace, I saw the king himself there, wearing jade worth more than a village. That plaza, I danced there during my initiation ceremony with 500 other young men. All true, all gone. He owns one precious thing, a jade bead, small, perfectly carved. It passed through his family for 4 generations. His great-grandfather obtained it as payment for skilled work during the pyramid construction. It represents the only wealth his family ever accumulated. During the worst years, he almost traded it for food. His children were hungry. The bead could buy corn, but he did not from attachment to material things, but because the bead represented something more than value. It represented memory. It proved that the stories were true, that his family once had standing, that the world was once different. He will be buried with this bead. His children will not trade it even after he dies. They will place it in his grave so he can show it to the lords of Xibalba. So the underworld gods will know he comes from a family of quality. So something beautiful accompanies him into darkness. Archaeology will find this bead 1,100 years later. It will be cataloged, measured, photographed, analyzed. XRF spectroscopy will determine the jade source, the Motagua Valley, 90 miles away. The carving style will be dated to around 750 CE. The burial context will suggest a person of modest status, buried with care, but minimal grave goods. Just this one bead. The archaeologists will write about social memory and value persistence and material culture in collapse contexts. They will be correct, but they will not know what the old man knew, that this bead represented the last physical connection to a lost world. They perform one last ceremony because the calendar requires it, because abandoning ritual means accepting complete defeat, because as long as someone remembers the old ways, the priest is 70, the youngest person trained in the full ceremonial tradition. No one younger learned. No scribal school remained to train them. He performs from memory. No codex to consult. No astronomical tables to verify timing. Just memory and tradition and stubborn refusal to let it completely die. The ritual is simpler than it should be. Shorter, with fewer participants and minimal offerings. The full ceremony required dozens of priests, hundreds of participants, costly sacrifices. This version makes do with what exists. The essential meaning continues, but diminished, shrunken, a shadow of former grandeur. The participants know this is probably the last time. The priest is old. The remaining population shrinks yearly. Soon, maybe next year, maybe 5 years from now, there will not be enough people to justify performing the ceremony, or the priest will die and no one will remember how. They do not speak this knowledge aloud. They perform the ritual as if it will continue forever, as if the tradition remains unbroken, as if the absence means nothing. But everyone knows this is the end. 910 CE, the last permanent residents leave, not ceremonially, not with grand processions or formal abandonment rituals. They simply go, load their possessions, walk away. Do not look back. The city behind them represents 500 years of continuous occupation. 20 generations lived here, built here, married, raised children, died here. Their ancestors are buried in the residential compounds. Their history is carved in the monuments. Their identity is tied to this place. But identity cannot feed children. History cannot fill empty reservoirs. Loyalty to place becomes luxury no one can afford. They walk north like tens of thousands before them, toward cities rumored to still function, toward coastal fishing villages, toward anywhere but here. They do not know if they will survive the journey. They do not know what waits at the destination. They know only that staying means certain death. Behind them, the city stands. The pyramids will stand for centuries more. The carved monuments will preserve information no one can read. The plazas will slowly fill with soil and seeds and eventually trees. But the city is no longer a city. It is stone and memory, and soon just stone. The last person out closes the door, a pointless gesture. No one will rob an empty house. No wild animals care about doors. The closing serves no practical purpose. But humans create meaning through gesture. Closing the door maintains dignity. Closing the door says we left by choice, not by fleeing. Closing the door preserves the fiction that return remains possible. The door will hang closed for one season, 2 seasons. Then termites will weaken the hinges. A storm will blow it open. It will hang askew briefly before falling. The wood will rot. The doorway will become an opening where forest animals pass. Eventually, the entire wall will collapse. The structure will become a mound. The mound will become part of the forest floor. But the gesture of closing matters. It represents the civilized response to catastrophe. Order maintained until the final moment. Dignity preserved even in defeat. This is how the classic Maya civilization ends. Not with apocalypse, not with fire and destruction, not with screaming and violence, with a door closing, with footsteps fading into forest, with silence. 5 years pass. The forest advances faster than anyone would predict. Seeds that lay dormant for generations germinate. Plants that barely survived human occupation now flourish. Animals that avoided human settlements return. The plaza that took 100 men 2 years to construct begins disappearing under grass within months. The carefully shaped limestone pavement cracks. Soil accumulates in the cracks. Seeds root. Within 3 years, the plaza looks ancient. Within 5 years, portions disappear entirely. The reservoirs fill with sediment. No longer maintained, they become swamps. Mosquitoes breed. Trees root in the accumulated soil. The carefully engineered water catchment system transforms into wetland. The drought that emptied it ended 2 years ago. Rain has returned to normal levels. The reservoirs would work again if anyone maintained them. But no, one does. The knowledge of how to maintain them dispersed with the population. The pyramid facings begin to fail. The Maya builders placed smooth limestone veneer over rougher rubble core. The veneer was secured with lime plaster, but plaster requires maintenance. Without replastering, water seeps behind the veneer. Freeze-thaw cycles, rare but occasional in the highlands, cause expansion and cracking. The veneer blocks loosen. They fall. The rubble core, less precisely shaped, begins to show through. The transformation accelerates. Each fallen stone creates space for more vegetation. Each plant's roots cause more damage. The feedback loop runs in reverse now. Not humans creating order from forest, but forest reclaiming order into chaos. The murals disappear first. They were never meant to last. Paint on plaster requires maintenance, repainting every few years. Without maintenance, moisture seeps through. The plaster softens. The paint flakes. The images fade. These murals recorded history, royal succession, military victories, trade relationships. They were art, yes, but they were also archives, visual records of events and relationships and hierarchies. They supplemented the hieroglyphic inscriptions, adding detail and context. Now they disappear. Within 20 years of abandonment, most murals will be illegible. Within 50 years, completely gone. The plaster itself will eventually fall away, leaving only rough stone walls with faint stains suggesting something once existed there. Future archaeologists will find traces. Chemical analysis will detect pigment residues. Careful excavation will recover fallen plaster fragments with tiny preserved sections of painting. These fragments will be photographed, cataloged, studied, partially reconstructed. But the vast majority of Maya mural art, thousands of square meters covering palace and temple walls, will be lost completely. The murals vanish. The painted stucco sculptures weather away. The wooden lintels rot. The textile banners and woven mats decay completely. Everything organic disappears. Only stone and ceramic remain. Future understanding of Maya civilization will be based on the 5% of material culture that survives, the most durable, least representative materials. 10 years after abandonment, a ceramic bowl sits where it fell when the house's roof collapsed. It once held corn, the last meal prepared here. The family departed mid-meal, or perhaps just left the cleaned bowl where it lay. Now forest soil surrounds it. A seedling has germinated inside it. The bowl has become a planter. Accidental. The object continues existing, but its meaning has transformed completely. This happens to everything. Objects persist, but meaning evaporates. A ceremonial jade mask becomes a green stone in soil. A carved stela recording royal genealogy becomes a limestone block with eroded surface patterns. A painted codex becomes decomposed bark fiber and scattered pigment. The physical substrate continues, transformed, degraded, but present. The meaning disappears absolutely. This is the second death of Maya civilization. The first death occurred when the people left. The second occurs when the material culture loses intelligibility, when no one remembers what the objects meant. When context disappears and only decontextualized remnants survive, archaeology will eventually restore some context. Patient excavation, careful analysis, comparative studies, scientific dating, pattern recognition. The context can be partially reconstructed, but partially is not fully. The reconstructed understanding will be accurate, but incomplete, like describing a symphony by analyzing the musical notation without ever hearing it performed. 50 years, 2 generations, the grandchildren of the last residents have never seen these ruins. Some have heard stories, most have not. The city has become unimportant. The people who left moved on, built new lives, created new identities. The past recedes. The ceiba tree, sacred to the Maya, believed to connect underworld, earth, and sky, grows from the palace floor. Its roots break through stone. Its trunk rises 20 meters. Its branches spread across what was once a ceremonial courtyard. It will live 400 years. Long after the last person who remembers this place as a living city has died. Long after the Spanish arrive and leave. Long after the independence movements and modern nations form. The tree will stand as the sole monument to continuity, growing from civilization's ruins. The howler monkeys return. They were always present in surrounding forest, but avoided the dense urban core during occupation. Now, they reclaim the pyramids as ideal territorial vantage points. Their dawn calls echo off stone architecture, as they once echoed off natural limestone ridges. The monkeys do not know these are artificial structures. To them, these are simply good climbing surfaces with excellent visibility. A jaguar makes its den in a collapsed temple room. The rubble creates a cave-like space, perfect shelter. The jaguar does not recognize this as human construction. It simply finds the space suitable. Its kills scatter bones in the former sanctuary where priests once performed bloodletting ceremonies. The jaguar's mark on the territory supersedes the divine king's authority. Different predators, same space, different era. The stone outlasts everything. The stela carved in 750 CE to commemorate Jasao Chankawil's victory stands precisely where it was placed. The hieroglyphic inscription remains readable. The calendar date, the royal titles, the event description, the information persists, carved deep enough that weathering barely affects it. But what surrounded this stela has vanished. Wooden offerings that burned, textile banners that rotted, painted symbols on the ground that washed away, incense burners that broke and scattered. The living ceremony that gave this monument meaning, the chanting, the music, the gathered witnesses, the shared understanding, erased completely. The stela becomes a curiosity. Future explorers will find it and marvel, but they will see only a carved rock in a jungle. They will not see what it was, the centerpiece of elaborate ritual, surrounded by structures and offerings and participating humans, connected to a vast cultural system of meaning. This selective preservation creates false impressions. It suggests Maya civilization was obsessed with stone carving and monumental architecture. But those were the exceptions, not the rule. Most Maya life involved wood and thatch and textile and bark and organic materials. These materials dominated but did not survive. Stone monuments were rare, expensive, special. But because only stone survives, future understanding overweights its importance. The archaeologists will know this. They will account for it. They will explicitly state, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. They will acknowledge that most material culture vanished. But knowing a bias exists and correcting for it completely are different things. The stone distorts understanding. The preservation shapes knowledge. 100 years. The city has disappeared. Not literally. The massive stone remains. But visually, functionally, cognitively, it has ceased being a city. It is jungle with unusual topography. A traveler passing through sees nothing remarkable. Forest, dense tropical forest. Some areas have odd hills, too regular, too geometric. Some clearings seem almost deliberate. But who would imagine massive architecture beneath this vegetation? Who would guess that a sophisticated urban center once occupied this space? The Maya peoples living in villages 50 miles away have forgotten. Their oral traditions mention ancient cities, but those cities are mythological now. Places where giants lived, or gods, or the first humans. The traditions do not connect the myths to specific locations. The ruins are unimportant. Just forest. The knowledge has been lost. The final death. Not physical destruction, but memorial erasure. The civilization ends not when the buildings fall, but when no one remembers they once stood. Chapter 8. The long silence. 5 centuries of forgetting. 1520. 520 years after the collapse began, Spanish conquistadors arrive in Yucatan. They expect to find primitive peoples. Instead, they find stone cities rivaling anything in Europe, pyramids larger than Egyptian, sculpture equal to Rome, architecture demonstrating mathematical sophistication. The Spanish are astonished and confused. Who built these? The Maya they encounter, farming villages, small towns, regional politics, claim no connection. These were built by the ancients, by different people, by giants or gods or the ancestors of the ancestors. The living Maya have no memory of the classic period kingdoms. No oral tradition preserving the information. No continuity of memory. The Spanish initially assumed these ruins are recent, perhaps abandoned during their own arrival, the Maya fleeing Spanish advance. But their Maya guides correct them. No, these have always been here. These are ancient, older than memory, older than anyone's grandfather's grandfather, just old. Bishop Diego de Landa tries to document what he finds. He collects codices. He questions Maya nobles about history. He records some valuable information. But he is also zealous Catholic, convinced of Maya devil worship. He burns most of what he finds, destroys codices, smashes idols, erases evidence while trying to document it. His written account, Relación de las Cosas de Yucatán, preserves valuable information about 16th century Maya culture. But his actions destroyed irreplaceable primary sources. The loss is incalculable. 4 codices survive his burning. 4 out of thousands. He reads what he can understand: the dates, the astronomical calculations, the calendar systems. He recognizes sophistication. These people calculated time with precision, matching European science. They predicted eclipses. They tracked Venus. They understood mathematics. But he also sees the gods, the sacrifice scenes, the religious content incompatible with Christianity, and his faith demands its destruction. He has traveled across an ocean to save souls. Allowing Maya religious texts to exist would endanger those souls. His duty is clear. He orders the burning. The codices burn. The knowledge burns. The accumulated wisdom of 2,000 years burns. He watches, convinced he does God's work. Later, he will write about Maya culture with genuine respect and detailed observation. But the primary sources, the Maya's own records, he has already destroyed. This scene repeats across Mesoamerica. Different Spanish officials, different Maya regions. Always the same result. The conquistadors arrive. They are impressed by the ruins. They ask questions. They get fragmentary answers. They destroy most original sources. They preserve some information in Spanish documents. But the Maya voice, the indigenous perspective, recorded by Maya scribes in Maya language using Maya script, that voice falls silent. 1839. John Lloyd Stephens and Frederick Catherwood explore Central America. American lawyer and English artist. They have heard rumors of lost cities. They investigate. What they find exceeds imagination. Catherwood creates detailed drawings. His artist's eye captures proportions and details photography could not yet provide. His lithographs published in Stevens's books reveal Maya civilization to the world. European and American audiences see these images with astonishment. Pyramids in the jungle? Hieroglyphic writing in the Americas? Cities abandoned for centuries? Stevens writes, "The world is perhaps beginning to tire of ruins. The works of art are not comparable to those of the ancient world. But architecture, sculpture, and painting, all the arts which embellish life, had flourished in this overgrown forest. Here were the remains of a cultivated, polished, and peculiar people." He recognizes sophistication, but he lacks context. No one can read the hieroglyphs yet. The dynastic histories remain encrypted, the astronomical texts incomprehensible. Stevens and Catherwood document what exists, but cannot explain what it means. The exploration era begins. Dozens of expeditions, some scientific, some merely treasure hunting. The ruins are discovered, though Maya peoples knew they existed all along. But Western discovery means something different. It means documentation, analysis, integration into European knowledge systems. 1920s. Sylvanus Morley leads Carnegie Institution excavations at Chichen Itza. The work is extensive. Hundreds of workers, dozens of structures cleared. The methods are crude by modern standards. Trees are cut down, vegetation removed, stones moved. The excavation causes as much damage as it prevents, but knowledge accumulates. Morley catalogs inscriptions. He publishes detailed records. He begins dating structures through architectural style and hieroglyphic dates. Pattern emerges. These cities were built over centuries. They flourished. They declined. They were abandoned. But why? Morley cannot answer. The inscriptions remain undeciphered. He can recognize dates. The long count is mathematical. Numbers are numbers, but the accompanying texts are mysterious. He knows when events occurred, but not what those events were. He develops theories: climate change, disease, soil exhaustion, invasion, earthquake. He lacks evidence to distinguish between possibilities. So he proposes all of them, cautiously, scientifically. Admitting uncertainty, the Maya studies community remains small. A few dozen serious scholars, some brilliant, some misguided, all working with inadequate tools and information. But slowly, patiently, the knowledge accumulates. 1960, the breakthrough. Tatiana Proskuryakov publishes her analysis of Piedras Negras inscriptions. She demonstrates that the glyphs record history, royal births, accessions, marriages, deaths, wars, not just calendrics and astronomy, actual history. This changes everything. The glyphs are not mysterious religious codes. They are language. They record real people doing real things. They name kings. They describe events. They preserve history. The decipherment accelerates. Scholars from multiple disciplines collaborate. Linguists analyze Maya languages for cognates. Art historians examine iconography. Archaeologists provide archaeological context. Epigraphers catalog and compare glyphs. Pattern recognition and patient analysis slowly crack the code. By 1980, substantial portions of Maya hieroglyphic writing can be read, not completely. not perfectly. The voices of the Maya scribes, silent for 1,000 years, begin speaking again. The inscriptions tell stories. Chichen Itza of Palenque ruled 68 years and died at 80. His sarcophagus lid shows him descending into Xibalba at death. Jasa Chan Kawil of Tikal captured Calakmul's king. The stela carved to commemorate victory names both victor and victim, describes the battle, dates it precisely. The kings have names again. The cities have histories again. The civilization has voice again. Today, Tikal, Chichen Itza, Palenque, Copán, restored, protected, managed. UNESCO World Heritage Sites, tourism destinations, national pride. The pyramids stand again, not exactly as they were. The restoration is approximation, educated guess, interpretation, but recognizably monumental, impressively massive. The plazas are cleared, the ball courts accessible, the stelae protected under thatched shelters. Tourists from around the world walk these plazas. They climb pyramids the Maya elite once reserved for themselves. They photograph hieroglyphs they cannot read. They experience a fraction of what existed, a curated, simplified, safe version. The majority remains unexcavated. For every structure cleared, 10 more sit as unnamed mounds in surrounding jungle. The resources do not exist to excavate everything. Perhaps the will does not exist either. Modern archaeology emphasizes preservation over exposure. Better to leave structures buried, protected from weather and vandalism, than expose them without adequate conservation resources. New technologies transform the field. LiDAR, light detection and ranging, penetrates jungle canopy and reveals archaeological features without excavation. Surveys reveal interconnected cities, extensive agricultural systems, roads, reservoirs, defensive earthworks. The Maya civilization was denser, more complex, more interconnected than anyone imagined. Population estimates rise. Not 2 million at the peak, perhaps 10 million, perhaps more. The collapse looks even more catastrophic when the heights were higher, and the Maya endure. 6 million people speaking Maya languages, 21 distinct languages descending from Proto-Mayan, Quiche, Kaqchi, Yucatec Maya, and others. The people survived even though the classic period kingdoms did not. They maintain traditions. They remember fragments, stories, place names, agricultural practices, ceremonial knowledge. The continuity is real, even if incomplete. They are not unchanged descendants of classic period Maya. They are transformed descendants, changed by conquest, colonization, modernization, globalization, but continuous. They sometimes resent the attention paid to ruins. Tourist dollars go to archaeological sites, while Maya communities remain poor. The governments celebrate ancient Maya achievements while marginalizing contemporary Maya peoples. The irony is bitter, but some embrace it. Some become archaeologists, tour guides, cultural interpreters. Some work to preserve language and tradition. Some teach children hieroglyphic writing. Some perform traditional ceremonies at ancient sites. The relationship between past and present is complex, contested, evolving. The civilization did not end. It transformed. The classic period ended. The cities emptied. The monuments fell silent. But the people persisted, changed, yes, diminished certainly, but continuous. That continuity matters. Chapter 9. The lessons linger. What the Maya collapse teaches us. We study collapse to understand survival. The Maya classic period ended 1100 years ago, but the questions it raises remain urgent. How do complex societies fail? Why do civilizations that seem stable suddenly dissolve? What warning signs appear before the end? Can collapse be prevented or only postponed? The Maya collapse was not unique. Egypt's Old Kingdom collapsed around 2100 BCE. The Bronze Age Mediterranean civilizations collapsed around 1200 BCE. Rome fell in the 5th century CE. The Khmer Empire abandoned Angkor in the 15th century. Complex societies rise and fall with troubling regularity. But the Maya collapse is particularly well documented. We have hieroglyphic inscriptions dating specific events. We have archaeological evidence showing settlement patterns and population changes. We have paleoclimatic data revealing environmental conditions. We can track cause and effect with unusual precision. And what we learn should disturb us. The Maya were sophisticated. They were adaptive. They were scientifically advanced. They understood their world with precision, yet they could not save themselves. If Maya civilization, with its centuries of accumulated knowledge and proven sustainability, could collapse so completely, what does that suggest about our own vulnerability? Climate change destroyed the classic Maya. Not instantly, not completely, but decisively. A 10% reduction in rainfall, a century of periodic drought, enough to stress agricultural systems operating at capacity. Today, climate change threatens on vastly larger scale. Global temperature rise, changing precipitation patterns, more frequent extreme weather, sea level rise, ecosystem disruption. The parallels to Maya experience are uncomfortably precise. Like the Maya, we operate at capacity. Global population approaches 8 billion. Agriculture utilizes most available arable land. Water resources are fully allocated in many regions. The system is optimized for current conditions, but optimization creates brittleness. When conditions change, optimized systems fail catastrophically. Like the Maya, we possess sophisticated knowledge. We understand climate science. We can model future scenarios with reasonable accuracy. We recognize the dangers, but knowledge does not guarantee action. The Maya knew their world was changing. They watched rainfall decline. They measured reservoir levels. They documented the crisis. But they could not overcome the structural forces driving collapse. Can we? That question haunts Maya studies. If a civilization as accomplished as the Maya could not save itself, what makes us confident we can? The Maya overshoot parallels our situation. They expanded population to match favorable climate conditions. They optimized agriculture for maximum yield. They eliminated buffering capacity. When climate deteriorated, they had no reserves, no unused land, no flexibility. The system could not absorb shock. We have done the same. Global agriculture feeds 7.9 billion people. This requires intensive cultivation, industrial fertilizers, extensive irrigation, genetic optimization, global trade networks. The system works brilliantly under stable conditions, but it has minimal shock absorption capacity. Supply chain disruption causes immediate shortages. Drought in major agricultural regions affects global food prices. Crop disease can devastate monoculture systems. Climate variation stresses production. The optimization that enables feeding billions creates vulnerability to any disruption. The Maya could not reduce population voluntarily. No society has ever managed controlled population decline. Demographic momentum prevents it. Social structures depend on population stability. Economic systems require growth. Political legitimacy rests on delivering prosperity. Suggesting managed contraction triggers resistance. So, the Maya continued having children even as resources declined, continued pushing agricultural systems beyond sustainability, continued hoping for better conditions, continued maintaining social structures even as the foundation eroded, until the system could not continue, until people made individual decisions to leave, until the cities emptied. We face similar constraints. Population growth has slowed, but not stopped. Consumption continues rising. Resource demands increase, and the structural forces preventing managed contraction remain powerful. Economic systems depend on growth. Political systems promise improvement. Cultural values celebrate expansion. Suggesting limits triggers fierce opposition. The Maya were hydraulic engineers. Their reservoir systems demonstrated mathematical precision and practical effectiveness. They reshaped landscapes to capture water. They calculated volumes and populations. The engineering was brilliant, but engineering cannot overcome insufficient rainfall. Technology extends limits, but does not eliminate them. We build larger reservoirs, more efficient irrigation, desalination plants, water recycling systems. The technology is vastly more sophisticated than Maya capabilities, but the fundamental constraint remains. Agriculture requires water, populations require water, industry requires water. When water becomes scarce, through drought or overuse or both, technology merely delays the crisis. It does not solve it. The American Southwest faces Maya-like conditions: limited rainfall, growing population, aquifer depletion, reservoir levels dropping, the Colorado River overallocated. Satellite photos show Lake Mead and Lake Powell shrinking year by year. The white bathtub rings on canyon walls record falling water levels exactly as Maya reservoir sediments record ancient decline. We possess technology the Maya lacked. We understand the problem with scientific precision. We can model scenarios and calculate timelines. But we have not solved the fundamental equation. Water demand exceeds water supply in many regions. Climate change worsens the imbalance. The trajectory is clear. Whether we can alter it remains uncertain. Technology changes. Human nature does not. The Maya faced collective action problems. Individual incentives conflicted with collective needs. A farmer deciding whether to have another child made rational individual choice that contributed to collective overpopulation. A noble hoarding resources made rational individual choice that undermined social cohesion. Individual rationality produced collective catastrophe. We face identical problems. Individual choices, what car to drive, how large a house to own, how many children to have, what food to eat, make sense individually, but aggregate into collective crisis. Global climate change results from billions of individually rational decisions. No single person causes it. Everyone contributes incrementally. Solving it requires coordinated collective action that overrides individual incentives. The Maya could not coordinate such action. Their political system was fragmented. 50 independent kingdoms competed rather than cooperated. Each king prioritized his own dynasty over collective survival. Each city pursued independent strategy. By the time coordination became obviously necessary, the social structures enabling coordination had already dissolved. We face similar coordination challenges. Nearly 200 nation-states, different priorities, competing interests, short-term incentives versus long-term survival. International agreements struggle against national sovereignty. The collective action problem that defeated the Maya operates at global scale today. But we have advantages the Maya lacked. Communication technology allows global coordination. Scientific understanding reveals the problems clearly. Democratic systems, theoretically, allow collective decision-making. We are not structurally doomed to repeat Maya mistakes, but neither are we guaranteed to avoid them. The advantage of knowledge is real, but not sufficient. Knowing the problem and solving it are different challenges. We study the Maya because we must, because understanding past collapse helps us recognize present vulnerability, because the patterns repeat across civilizations and centuries, because human societies follow similar trajectories regardless of technology or culture. Modern Maya studies has become increasingly sophisticated. LiDAR reveals urban density and agricultural intensity invisible to ground survey. Isotope analysis of bones shows diet and migration patterns. Paleoclimatic reconstruction provides year-by-year rainfall data. Hieroglyphic decipherment recovers historical details. The evidence accumulates. The picture clarifies, and what emerges is both hopeful and terrifying. Hopeful because the Maya survived. Their civilization transformed, but their people persisted. 6 million Maya language speakers today prove that cultural continuity is possible even through catastrophic collapse. Terrifying because survival came at enormous cost. Millions died. Knowledge was lost. Achievement was erased. The recovery took centuries. We have the opportunity to do better, to recognize warning signs, to implement adaptive strategies, to coordinate collective action, to manage change rather than experience catastrophe. The Maya teach us what happens when societies fail to adapt. That knowledge is valuable. Whether we use it effectively remains to be seen. Each generation rediscovers the Maya. Students in classrooms study hieroglyphs. Tourists climb pyramids. Scholars publish research. Documentaries reach millions. The interest never fades because the story is compelling, because the achievements were genuine, because the questions remain relevant. What makes a civilization great? The Maya built pyramids, developed writing, calculated time with precision, created art of exceptional beauty. They achieved greatness by any measure, yet they collapsed. Greatness did not prevent failure. Achievement did not guarantee survival. The disconnect disturbs us. We want to believe that excellence protects against catastrophe. The Maya prove it does not. What makes a civilization sustainable? Not pyramids or art or science. Those are products of sustainability, not causes. Sustainability requires balance between population and resources, between consumption and regeneration, between present demands and future capacity. The Maya lost that balance. They expanded beyond sustainable limits. When conditions changed, the imbalance destroyed them. We face the same challenge. Our achievements vastly exceed Maya accomplishments. Our cities, our technology, our knowledge, our global civilization all surpass what the Maya achieved. But achievement is not sustainability. We expand beyond sustainable limits. We consume resources faster than regeneration. We alter climate and ecosystems. The trajectory mirrors Maya experience at larger scale. But the Maya also teach resilience. 6 million people speaking Maya languages prove that cultures can survive civilizational collapse. The knowledge was partially lost, but not completely. The traditions transformed, but persisted. The languages evolved, but continued. The people endured. Contemporary Maya communities maintain agricultural practices descended from ancient methods. They perform ceremonies connecting to pre-Columbian traditions. They tell stories incorporating ancient places and events. The cultural continuity is real, even if incomplete. This resilience matters. It shows that collapse is not extinction, that civilizations can fail without peoples disappearing, that knowledge and tradition can survive catastrophic change. The continuity is transformed, diminished, but genuine. We might need that lesson if global civilization faces disruption, whether from climate change, resource depletion, systemic failure, or unforeseen crisis. The Maya experience suggests that human communities can persist through collapse, that local knowledge and adaptive capacity matter more than centralized systems. That resilience comes from diversity rather than optimization. The Maya who survived the classic period collapse were not the elite in the great cities. They were the farmers in the hinterlands, the villagers maintaining traditional practices. The communities less dependent on complex systems. When the cities failed, those communities adapted and continued. Their descendants are the Maya of today. Chapter 10. The ruins remember what remains in stone and silence. Dawn at Tikal. The howler monkeys announce sunrise with calls that echo off ancient stone. The mist rises from the jungle canopy. The pyramids emerge like islands from a green sea. Temple 4. The tallest structure catches first light on its summit. This moment occurs every day. has occurred every day for 1,200 years, regardless of human presence or absence, regardless of knowledge or ignorance. The sun rises, the mist forms, the jungle breathes, the stone endures, the ruins remember nothing. Stone has no memory. The information carved into limestone remains, but means nothing to the stone itself. The pyramids do not know their own history. They simply exist, mass and form and gravitational persistence. Yet in another sense, the ruins remember everything. They preserve information with perfect fidelity. The hieroglyphic inscriptions record exact dates and specific events. The architectural forms demonstrate mathematical knowledge and aesthetic values. The settlement patterns reveal social organization. The material culture reflects daily life and sacred ceremony. The ruins are an archive, not a perfect archive. Most has been lost, but what remains is accurate. The stone does not lie. It does not embellish or forget. It records what was carved and preserves it unchanged. Human memory fails. Oral tradition transforms. Written records burn. But stone endures. Water collects in carved lines. Morning dew fills the glyphs exactly as rain did 1,200 years ago. The process is identical. The water does not know this is inscription. It simply follows gravity and surface tension, finding the lowest points, collecting in depressions, evaporating when sunlight intensifies. But in collecting there, the water briefly makes the glyphs more visible. The wet stone darker than dry stone. The contrast emphasizes the carved shapes. Someone standing nearby would see the glyphs more clearly, would read them more easily, would understand more fully. If anyone there could read them, which they cannot. The local guides know the ruins. They tell stories to tourists. They explain history as they understand it, often accurately, sometimes creatively. But they cannot read the glyphs. That knowledge disappeared 900 years ago. The glyphs remain perfectly legible, but no one present can read them. This paradox defines the ruins. Information preserved but inaccessible. Knowledge present but incomprehensible. The Maya left messages for the future. Those messages survived against enormous odds, but the future that received them could not read them. Not until modern decipherment recovered the ability. And even now, many glyphs remain undeciphered. Many nuances are lost. The surviving messages are fragmentary, partial, incomplete. Walk through a palace that once housed a dynasty. The rooms are open to sky now. The roof collapsed 600 years ago. Trees grow where nobles once slept. Moss covers floors that were polished plaster. The walls lean, unstable, waiting for the earthquake or storm that will finally knock them down. But the corbel arch remains intact. That distinctive Maya architectural solution, overlapping stones gradually closing the gap until a capstone completes the vault. No true arch, but effective. Beautiful in its geometry, the stones hold each other through gravity and friction. No mortar needed. If the walls stand, the arch stands. These arches have stood 800 years since abandonment. Some have collapsed. Most endure, not through luck, but through engineering. The Maya understood stone. They calculated loads. They shaped blocks precisely. They built to last. And the architecture has lasted, outliving the civilization that created it by more than a millennium. Future archaeologists, if any exist, will find these structures still standing in another 1,000 years. Vegetation will cover them. Earthquakes will damage them. But the stone will persist. The information will survive. These rooms will still testify to Maya achievement long after every memory of the current civilization has also disappeared. The ball court at Copán, smaller than Chichen Itza's enormous court, but more intimate, more human scale. Stand at one end and imagine the game. The heavy rubber ball, the players in protective padding, the sound of the ball striking stone, the spectators watching from the slopes, the ritual significance transforming sport into cosmology. But also, imagine the silence after, when no games are played, when no spectators gather, when the court sits empty for decades, then centuries, then a millennium. The silence deeper than any sound, the absence more profound than any presence. These stones heard crowds cheering. They felt the impact of the ball thousands of times. They witnessed ritual sacrifice and ceremonial completion. They were the stage for events that mattered intensely to the participants. And then they witnessed nothing. Just weather. Just vegetation. Just time passing with geological patience. The ball court does not care. It was built to function, and it functioned. It was built to last, and it has lasted. Human use was temporary. Stone existence is longer. The court will be here when every person currently alive has died, when their children have died, when the memory of this era has faded. The stones endure. The Venus table at Copán, carved inscriptions tracking Venus through its 584-day cycle. The calculations are precise to within hours over centuries. The math is sophisticated. Base 20 numeration, place value notation, zero concept. The astronomical knowledge rivals anything in the old world. A scribe carved this, probably an elderly man, trained from childhood, who had spent his life studying the sky. He calculated backwards through centuries of observations. He recognized the patterns. He expressed them mathematically. He carved them into stone so future astronomers could verify and extend his work. That future never came. No one extended his work. The astronomical tradition ended within a century of this inscription. The knowledge dispersed. The observations ceased. The calculations stopped. His intellectual descendants never existed. The lineage broke, but his work remains. Modern astronomers can verify his calculations. They are correct. His observations were accurate. His mathematics were sound. He achieved something objectively valuable: knowledge of celestial mechanics expressed with scientific precision. That achievement survives, even though the tradition died. This is what the ruins preserve. Not just architecture or art, though those survive too, but intellectual achievement, mathematical knowledge, scientific precision, aesthetic sophistication, the highest accomplishments of Maya culture, carved into stone, surviving against all odds, testifying to capabilities that flourished briefly and then disappeared. Sunset from Temple 4, the highest point for 100 miles. The Petén jungle stretches in every direction. Other Maya sites are out there: Huaxacton, Nakbi, El Mirador, dozens of cities within a day's walk, all abandoned, all silent, all slowly being consumed by the forest. Venus appears, the evening star. The planet the Maya tracked with obsessive precision. They knew its cycle better than any other ancient culture. They could predict where it would appear in the sky years in advance. They scheduled ceremonies and wars to coincide with its movements. Venus was sacred, powerful, connected to kingship and warfare and cosmic order. The planet does not know this. It follows orbital mechanics. It reflects sunlight. It appears where physics dictates it must appear. Human significance was projected onto it. Maya observation was accurate, but their interpretation was cultural. Venus did not care about Maya kings any more than it cares about anything else. But standing here, watching Venus appear exactly where Maya astronomers predicted it would appear 1,200 years ago, creates a connection. The sky is the same. The planet follows the same orbit. The calculations remain valid. The intellectual achievement persists even though the civilization perished. The bats emerge. Every evening at dusk, thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands. They roost in the temple rooms during the day. At dusk, they pour out to hunt insects over the jungle canopy. The stream of bats continues for 20 minutes. An unbroken flow of wings and high-frequency echolocation clicks inaudible to human ears. The temple is perfect bat habitat. Dark rooms, high ceilings, minimal human disturbance. The bats have used it for centuries. Guano accumulates in layers. Archaeologists excavating these rooms must wear respirators. The ammonia is overwhelming, but the guano layers contain information. Bat bones, insect parts, seeds, pollen, environmental data spanning centuries. The bats do not care about Maya history. They care about shelter and food and reproduction. The temple provides shelter. They use it. Whether this was sacred space or mundane space means nothing to them. The human significance has evaporated. The ecological function remains. This is what happens to all human spaces eventually. The significance we attach to them is temporary. The physical function persists or transforms but continues. The temple was built for ceremony. It served that function for centuries. Then it served no function. Now it serves bats. Someday it will collapse and serve as mineral nutrients for forest soil. The atoms will continue existing. The arrangement will change. The meaning will shift. But the material persists. A king's face, carved in 800 CE. His name is recorded in glyphs nearby. He ruled 23 years. He built this temple. He commissioned this portrait. He intended it to last forever, to prove his greatness, to preserve his memory. It has lasted 1,200 years. His memory has lasted only in the sense that modern scholars can read his name and dates. They do not know what he looked like. This carving is stylized, idealized. It shows how he wanted to be remembered, not how he actually appeared. The distinction matters, but even this idealized image is disappearing. The lichen grows, the moss spreads, the stone weathers grain by grain. In another 500 years, the features will be indistinct. In 1,000 years, illegible. The face will fade to suggestion, then to nothing. The stone will remain, but the carving will be gone. This happens to everything. The pyramids will last millennia more, but the details disappear first. The fine carving, the surface decoration, the hieroglyphic texts. These erode faster than the massive blocks. Information loss accelerates. The gross forms persist longest. The subtle details vanish soonest. Future visitors will see pyramids. They will not see the intricate hieroglyphic histories. Those are already deteriorating. Photography preserves them. Digital archives store the information, but the originals fade. In centuries, only the archives will remain, and archives are vulnerable in ways stone is not. Hard drives fail, servers crash, institutions close. Digital information requires active maintenance. Stone requires nothing. It simply exists. The moon rises full, bright enough to cast shadows, bright enough that the pyramids become visible as shapes against the sky. The jungle sounds intensify at night. Insects, frogs, night birds, the rustling of nocturnal animals, the sounds of life continuing regardless of human presence or absence. The Maya tracked the moon. They calculated its cycles. They knew the Saros cycle for eclipses, 223 lunar months. They could predict when the sun would darken or the moon would blood red. They carved these predictions into stone. The predictions remain accurate. The moon follows the same patterns. But the Maya who calculated these patterns are gone. Their descendants survive, but the knowledge is lost. Contemporary Maya peoples do not predict eclipses. The tradition ended. The knowledge was not passed down. The calculated understanding died, even though the cosmic patterns continued unchanged. The moon does not notice. It orbits Earth with mechanical regularity. It creates tides. It reflects sunlight. It follows gravitational laws. Human observation is irrelevant to its function. The Maya watched it. We watch it. Future peoples will watch it or not watch it. The moon persists regardless. This perspective, astronomical perspective, reveals human insignificance, not in a nihilistic sense, but in a factual sense. The cosmos operates according to physical laws. Human civilizations rise and fall like waves on an ocean. Brief perturbations in material arrangements, temporary organizations of matter and energy, meaningful to participants, insignificant to the universe. The Maya understood this. Their astronomy was not sentimental. They did not imagine the gods personally cared about individual humans. The cosmos was vast, powerful, indifferent. Human duty was to align with cosmic order through ceremony and sacrifice. not to change cosmic order, but to harmonize with it. Modern science reveals even vaster cosmos, billions of galaxies, trillions of stars, incomprehensible scales of time and space. Human civilization is microsecond brief on geological timescales. Invisible on astronomical scales, we matter intensely to ourselves. We matter not at all to the universe. This perspective is either depressing or liberating. Depressing if we need cosmic significance. Liberating if we can create meaning locally, regardless of universal indifference. The Maya chose the latter. They built pyramids knowing they were temporary. They carved inscriptions knowing they would eventually erode. They created beauty and knowledge and civilization knowing it would end. And it did end. But the choice to create, despite impermanence, was valid. The achievements were real, the knowledge was genuine, the beauty was authentic. Impermanence does not negate value. Everything is impermanent. Value exists in the moment of creation and the period of persistence. The Maya pyramids, standing 1,200 years after abandonment, testify to genuine achievement, even though eventual obliteration is certain. The Milky Way, our galaxy, hundreds of billions of stars. The Maya called it Wakachan, the raised up sky. They saw it as the world tree, the cosmic axis connecting the underworld, the middle world, and the overworld. The path souls traveled after death. Modern astronomy reveals different truth. The Milky Way is not a tree, but a flat disk of stars viewed edge-on from our position within it. The glow we see is the combined light of billions of stars, too distant to resolve individually. Our solar system orbits the galactic center, completing one orbit every 225 million years. We are located in a minor spiral arm, an insignificant location in an average galaxy. The Maya interpretation was wrong, but their observations were accurate. They tracked stars with precision. They noted patterns. They recognized the Milky Way's position changed with seasons. They incorporated this knowledge into architecture and ceremony. Their understanding was sophisticated even if their explanation was mythological. We have better explanation. We understand stellar formation and galactic dynamics and cosmic evolution, but our cities also crumble. Our knowledge also becomes lost. Our civilizations also end. Better explanation does not guarantee better outcomes. Understanding astronomy does not prevent societal collapse. The stars remain. They burned before humans existed. They will burn after humans vanish. The Maya watched them. We watch them. Neither watching changes them. The significance exists only in the observation, in the meaning we create, in the knowledge we preserve temporarily before it too disappears. The forest glows, not everywhere, just scattered points, bioluminescent fungi on rotting logs, natural phosphorescence creating cold light, blue-green pinpoints scattered through darkness. The effect is magical, even though the explanation is biochemical. Luciferin oxidizing, energy releasing as photons, chemistry creating beauty as side effect. The Maya walked through these forests. They saw the same glow. They had different explanation. Spirits, magic, the realm of Xibalba touching the middle world. Their explanation was wrong, but their experience was identical. The same photons struck their eyes. The same neural processing created the perception. The phenomenon remains constant. The interpretation changes. The fungi feed on decay, on fallen trees, on dead wood. They convert death into life. The carbon sequestered in wood returns to the ecosystem. The nutrients recycle. The forest continues. Death enables life. Decay creates growth. The cycle is eternal, or at least as eternal as ecosystems can be. The Maya understood cycles. Their calendar was cyclical. Their cosmology emphasized endless repetition, creation and destruction and recreation. The current world was the fourth or fifth. The sources disagree. Previous worlds had been destroyed, new worlds created. The pattern would continue. Nothing was permanent. Everything transformed. This understanding was sophisticated, more sophisticated than linear narratives of progress. Cycles recognize that rise implies fall, that creation implies destruction, that achievement is temporary. The Maya built their civilization understanding it would end. They created beauty knowing it would fade. They pursued knowledge, accepting it would be lost. This is wisdom, not pessimism, realism about impermanence, creating value despite temporary existence, finding meaning in the moment rather than demanding eternal significance. A seedling growing from a hieroglyph carved 800 years ago. The seed landed in accumulated soil. It germinated. It pushes toward light. Its roots will crack the stone eventually. The damage is inevitable. But the seedling does not know this. It simply grows, because growth is what living things do. This tiny plant will likely die within months. Drought, herbivory, insufficient soil depth. The odds against any single seedling surviving to maturity are astronomical. But enough seeds germinate that some survive. Enough survive that the forest continues. Individual mortality is certain. Population continuity persists. The Maya were like this seedling. Individuals were mortal. Families sometimes died out. Even dynasties ended. But the population continued until it couldn't. Until the carrying capacity was exceeded, until the drought made survival impossible, until the individuals choosing to leave outnumbered those choosing to stay. Then the continuity broke, but not completely. Some Maya communities persisted. Some villages survived. Some families continued. The collapse was not extinction. It was transformation. Massive population decline, cultural simplification, knowledge loss, but some continuity, some survival, some persistence despite catastrophic change. The seedling grows, probably dies, but if enough seedlings attempt growth, some succeed. This is the mathematics of survival. Not certainty for individuals, but probability for populations. Redundancy creates resilience. Diversity enables adaptation. multiple strategies increase the chance that some strategy works. The Maya lacked this redundancy when the collapse occurred. They had optimized for specific conditions. When conditions changed, the optimization became vulnerability. There was no backup strategy, no alternative approach, no unused capacity. The system was brittle. When it broke, it shattered. Humans work to preserve what time destroys. Conservation teams stabilize crumbling walls. Archaeologists excavate and document before structures collapse. Engineers devise systems to manage water drainage. Botanists identify which vegetation to remove and which to preserve. The effort is continuous, expensive, and ultimately futile. Futile not because preservation is worthless, but because complete preservation is impossible. The best outcome is slowing decay, maintaining ruins in a semi-stable state for decades or centuries. Eventually, geological time wins. The stone weathers, the structures collapse. The information is lost. Preservation only delays the inevitable. But delay has value. Each year of preservation allows more research, more visitors, more education, more connection to the past. The ruins teach us, they inspire us, they warn us. Preserving them preserves that teaching capacity. The effort is worthwhile, even knowing it cannot succeed permanently. The conservation teams know this. They work understanding that their careful stabilization will itself require conservation someday, that future teams will repair their repairs, that the work is endless, but they do it anyway, because humans create meaning through effort, because preservation expresses values, because choosing to maintain connection with the past matters even when perfect preservation is impossible. This is different from the Maya. The Maya maintained their monuments as functioning ceremonial spaces, replastering every katoon, repainting regularly, adding new construction. The maintenance was part of active use. When use ceased, maintenance ceased. We maintain ruins as ruins. We preserve them in their damaged state. We stabilize them, but do not rebuild them completely. The conservation philosophy accepts loss while preventing further damage. We document what exists, we slow the decay, but we do not attempt reconstruction to original condition. The ruins remain ruins. The pastness remains visible. A tour group climbs Temple 2. 20 people from 5 countries. They speak different languages. They come from different cultures, but they share curiosity about the Maya. They want to understand. They want to see. They want to connect with the past. The guide explains history in simplified form, accurate but accessible. He describes the classic period height, the collapse, the rediscovery. He shows them glyphs and explains their meaning. He points out architectural features and discusses their function. He makes the ruins comprehensible to non-specialists. The tourists listen, some carefully, some casually. A few check their phones. A couple takes selfies with the pyramids as background. The engagement varies, but the presence matters. These people chose to come here. They invested time and money to visit ancient ruins. That choice indicates value. Tourism is complicated. It generates revenue that funds preservation. It creates local employment. It raises awareness. These benefits are real, but tourism also causes damage. Foot traffic erodes surfaces. Touching degrades carvings. Increased humidity from visitors damages interior spaces. The volume of visitors stresses the structures. The balance is difficult. Too few visitors means insufficient funding and fading relevance. Too many visitors means accelerated damage. The optimal number falls somewhere between. But optimal for what? For preservation? For education? For economic benefit? For local communities? Different goals suggest different answers. The child touches the carving gently, curious about texture, about age, about connection to people who lived 1,000 years ago. The touch is innocent, natural, understandable. But the stone records every touch, not individually. Millions of touches over decades smooth the carved surfaces. The sharp edges round, the fine details disappear, the stone physically changes. The oil from human skin attracts moisture, accelerates weathering, creates chemical reactions that degrade the limestone. Signs say, "Do not touch." Barriers prevent access to most carvings, but not all. Some areas remain accessible, and people touch. They cannot help themselves. The impulse to physically connect with historical objects is powerful. Seeing is not enough. Photographing is not enough. Direct physical contact creates different connection. This creates ethical dilemma. Allow touching and the carvings deteriorate faster. Prevent touching and the connection weakens. Pure preservation would seal the ruins completely. No visitors, no touching, no damage, but also no engagement, no cultural transmission. The Maya created these carvings to communicate, to record, to teach, to preserve memory. Preventing anyone from engaging with them defeats that purpose. But engagement causes damage. The dilemma has no perfect solution, only compromise, only balance between competing values. Perhaps this is appropriate. The Maya would understand compromise. They balanced present needs against future considerations. They sacrificed immediate pleasure for long-term benefit. They understood that all choices involve trade-offs. They would recognize our dilemma as familiar, different specifics, same fundamental challenge. At the ancient altar, contemporary Maya performs ceremony, not recreation, not historical reenactment, actual religious practice. They burn copal incense. They pray in Chichen Maya. They ask blessings from ancestors and deities. They maintain connection with sacred landscape and spiritual tradition. The ceremony is different from classic period rituals. 800 years of change, Spanish conquest, Catholic influence, modern life. The traditions have transformed, but they have not disappeared. The continuity is real, even if changed. The participants understand they do not practice exactly as their ancestors did. Knowledge was lost. Traditions evolved. Spanish colonization imposed Catholic framework onto Maya spirituality. Modern Maya religion is syncretic, blending indigenous and Catholic elements. The pure classic period traditions are gone, but something persists. The concept of sacred landscape, the importance of ceremony, the practice of offering, the language itself, transformed but continuous. The participants are descendants, not identical to ancestors but connected. The lineage is unbroken, even if changed. This matters because it demonstrates that collapse is not extinction, that cultural traditions can survive civilizational catastrophe, that people adapt and continue. The classic period ended, the great cities emptied, but the Maya people survived. They maintained identity through conquest, colonization, and modernity. That survival testifies to resilience. The ceremony concludes. The incense smoke disperses. The participants depart. The ruins stand unchanged. The moment passes, but the connection was made. The tradition was maintained. The continuity continues. Twilight, the boundary time, neither day nor night. The light fades. The jungle sounds change. Diurnal creatures settle. Nocturnal creatures emerge. The transition is gradual but definite. The pyramids become silhouettes. Their details disappear into shadow. Only their mass remains visible against the sky. The fireflies emerge. Bioluminescent beetles, signaling to potential mates. Flash patterns, species-specific, communication through light. The forest fills with tiny, silent flashes, yellow-green pulses in darkness. The effect is magical, beautiful, purely functional communication transformed by human perception into aesthetic experience. The Maya saw these same fireflies. They had explanations involving spirits or the souls of the dead. Their interpretation was different, but the phenomenon was identical. The biological mechanism has not changed. The light chemistry is the same. Only the human understanding has transformed. This continuity matters. The natural world persists regardless of human civilization. The forest that covered these pyramids before human settlement covers them again after human departure. The jungle does not care about Maya achievement or Maya failure. It simply grows wherever conditions permit. When humans prevent growth through constant maintenance, the jungle waits. When maintenance ceases, the jungle returns. This is not malicious, not intentional, just ecological succession, natural process, life occupying available niches. The ruins create interesting niches, vertical surfaces, protected spaces, water collection areas, nutrient-rich soil from collapsed structures. Life adapts to these opportunities. The adaptation is neutral, neither destruction nor preservation. Simply continuation, complete darkness, the kind of darkness that no longer exists in most developed areas. No artificial light for 100 miles, only stars. The Milky Way so bright it casts shadows. The pyramids invisible except as darker masses against dark sky. This is how the ruins exist most of the time. Not illuminated for tourists, not photographed for documentaries, just dark, silent, existing without observation. The stones continue being stones, whether humans perceive them or not. The jungle continues growing whether anyone watches or not. The universe continues expanding whether anyone notices or not. Existence independent of observation. This seems obvious, but feels strange. We experience the world through observation, through consciousness, through perception. The idea that the world continues unchanged when unobserved is intellectually accepted, but emotionally difficult. The Maya ruins help us understand this. They existed for centuries, unobserved by anyone who could recognize them as human architecture. The stones remained, the glyphs persisted, the information survived, all without human awareness. The ruins were not waiting to be discovered. They were simply existing. Discovery changed human knowledge. It changed nothing about the ruins themselves. This perspective is humbling. The ruins do not need us. They existed before modern archaeology. They will exist after modern civilization. Our knowledge of them is valuable to us. It means nothing to them. The stones do not care whether we understand them. The hieroglyphs do not care whether we can read them. The architecture does not care whether we appreciate it. Creating meaning is human activity. Recognizing beauty is human perception. Understanding history is human knowledge. These are valuable human activities, but they are human-specific. The ruins participate passively. They enable these activities by existing, but they do not require them. The carved face in darkness, barely visible. Starlight, insufficient to reveal detail. Shapes, suggested rather than shown. The face exists, but cannot be seen without artificial light or full moon. This is metaphor. The Maya past exists, but is difficult to see. We shine archaeological light on it. We illuminate specific areas. We reveal details, but the light is partial. Most remains dark. Most remains unknown. The archaeological record is fragmentary. The hieroglyphic texts preserve perhaps 1% of what was written. The architecture surviving represents a small fraction of what was built. The artifacts recovered are infinitesimal portion of what existed. We work with fragments. We extrapolate from partial evidence. We make educated guesses. We construct narratives from incomplete information. The resulting understanding is valuable, but limited. We know some things with certainty. Many things remain speculative. Most are completely unknown. This is the human condition studying the past. We exist in light. The past exists in darkness. We shine light backward. We illuminate portions, but we cannot illuminate everything. The darkness remains vast. The unknown exceeds the known. The certainty is rare. The speculation is common, but partial knowledge is better than no knowledge. Knowing some things allows us to learn from the past, to recognize patterns, to avoid repeated mistakes, to appreciate achievements. The difficulty of knowing does not negate the value of knowledge. It simply requires humility, recognition of limits, acceptance of uncertainty. The Maya face remains in darkness. It existed in light 1,200 years ago. It will exist in light again when sun rises. But for now, In this moment, it is nearly invisible, present but imperceptible, real but unknowable, existing beyond human observation. The darkness begins to fade, not suddenly, gradually. The sky lightens in the east, deep blue replacing black, the horizon distinguishable from the sky, the pyramids becoming slightly more visible as dark shapes against slightly lighter background. Dawn approaches, as it does every day, has done every day since the Earth's rotation stabilized billions of years ago, will continue doing every day until the sun expands into red giant and destroys the inner planets billions of years hence. The cycle is stable on timescales that make human history invisible. The Maya understood cycles. Their calendar was sophisticated precisely because they recognized astronomical regularity. The cycles nested: 13-day weeks, 20-day months, 365-day years, 52-year calendar rounds, 400-year backtunes, each cycle operating within larger cycles, time as circular rather than linear, repetition rather than progress. This understanding seems alien to modern Western thought. We emphasize linear time, progress, development, improvement. The idea that history cycles, that civilizations rise and fall and rise again, feels pessimistic. We prefer narratives of advancement, of learning from mistakes, of steady improvement. But the archaeological record supports cyclical view. Civilizations do rise and fall repeatedly. The patterns recur. The mistakes repeat. The collapses share characteristics. Human nature remains constant, even as technology changes. The same behavioral patterns produce similar outcomes across millennia. The Maya understood this. They expected cycles. They anticipated that the current world would end and new world would begin. They built accordingly, not with expectation of permanence, but with acceptance of temporariness. Their achievements were real but not eternal. Their knowledge was genuine but not final. Their civilization was sophisticated but not immune to collapse. This realism is mature, more mature than believing in perpetual progress, more accurate than assuming our civilization is immune to forces that destroyed previous civilizations. The Maya teach us to build with excellence while accepting impermanence, to create beauty while knowing it will fade, to pursue knowledge while understanding it will be lost, to make meaning despite certain ending. Sunrise, the first ray strikes the pyramid summit. The capstone illuminates while everything below remains in shadow. The geometry creates drama, light and dark sharply divided. The transition visible in real time as light moves down the structure. The Maya may have designed this. Many structures show astronomical alignments. Buildings oriented to solstice sunrises. Windows positioned to frame equinox sunsets. Architectural astronomy integrating celestial knowledge into built environment. The precision is remarkable, the intentionality probable. Or perhaps it is coincidence. Perhaps the structure orientation served other purposes, and the dramatic sunrise is unintended. Perhaps we project intentionality onto random alignment. The evidence does not always distinguish between purposeful design and selective interpretation. But the effect exists regardless. The pyramid catches first light. The moment is beautiful. The symbolism resonates. Light conquering darkness. Day beginning. The cycle continuing. Whether intended or not, the phenomenon has meaning. Humans create meaning through interpretation. The light touching stone becomes metaphor for knowledge illuminating ignorance, for understanding dispelling mystery, for continuity persisting despite change. The light spreads, moves down the pyramid, reveals details invisible in darkness. The carved stones become visible. The architectural precision shows. The massive scale becomes apparent. The darkness retreats. The day begins. This happens every morning. Happened this morning 1,200 years ago, when the city functioned. Happened every morning during the centuries of abandonment, when no one watched. Happens this morning with archaeologists and tourists present. Will happen tomorrow morning, regardless of human presence. The cycle continues, independent of observation, independent of appreciation, independent of understanding. The stone warms in sunlight. The temperature differential causes expansion. Microcracks develop. Water enters, freezes, expands. The cracks widen. The process is slow, imperceptible day to day, but cumulative. The stone weathers. The structure weakens. The decay continues. Light brings warmth. Warmth brings change. Change brings decay. Even sunrise contributes to eventual destruction. The dew evaporates. Water molecules absorbing energy from sunlight, transitioning from liquid to vapor, rising into air. The process is continuous. Thousands of droplets evaporating simultaneously. The stone dries. The surface changes from dark wet to light dry. The color shifts. The texture becomes more visible. This is the present moment. Not historical, not archaeological, not meaningful beyond its immediate physics. Water evaporating, stone drying, light providing energy, air absorbing moisture. Natural processes operating exactly as they have for 4 billion years since liquid water appeared on Earth's surface. The glyphs carved in this stone recorded historical events, king's birth, battle victories, ritual completions. But the glyphs do not care about the water evaporating from their carved surfaces. The stone does not remember what information it preserves. The water molecules have no connection to Maya history. They simply evaporate because temperature and humidity gradients make evaporation thermodynamically favorable. This disconnect between historical significance and physical process is important to recognize. We invest the ruins with meaning. We care about preservation. We study the inscriptions. But the ruins themselves are simply matter arranged in particular configurations. The arrangements were created by humans with purposes and intentions. But once created, the matter continues existing according to physical laws. The human meaning is added by observers. It exists in our interpretation, not in the stones themselves. This is not nihilism. Meaning exists. Knowledge has value. History matters, but these are human categories, human activities, human concerns. The universe does not care about human meaning. The stones do not care about human interpretation. The water evaporates regardless of historical significance. Recognizing this helps maintain perspective. The ruins are important to us. They should be preserved. They should be studied. They should be appreciated. But their importance is human importance. Their significance is human significance. We create the value through our engagement. The stones participate passively. They enable our knowledge activities by existing, but they do not require our attention. The dew evaporates completely. The stone is dry. The morning advances. The day continues. The processes continue with or without observation, with or without appreciation, with or without understanding. The world continues. Morning at Tikal. The ruins as they exist now, not as they were, not as they will be, as they are, partially restored, partially excavated, partially maintained, partially decaying. The reality is compromise, balance between preservation and decay, between access and protection, between tourism and conservation. Temple 1 rises 47 meters. Steep stairs climb to summit. Tourists used to be allowed to climb, now prohibited. Too dangerous, too damaging. The temple is seen but not touched, photographed but not accessed. The compromise between experience and preservation favors preservation. Temple 4 is different, still climbable. Wooden stairs installed to prevent damage to ancient stones. The compromise allows access while protecting original architecture. Visitors can experience the height, can see the view, can feel the magnitude, but cannot damage the structure. The Great Plaza stretches between pyramids, originally plastered smooth, now grass and dirt with scattered trees. The restoration leaves it partially natural. The compromise acknowledges that complete restoration is impossible. That modern understanding of original appearance is limited. That leaving evidence of time's passage has value. This is honest preservation, not Disneyland recreation, not complete abandonment to decay, but thoughtful compromise, maintaining enough to enable understanding while accepting that perfection is impossible, preserving enough to prevent complete loss while acknowledging that some loss is inevitable. The approach seems appropriate. The Maya themselves maintained their buildings through constant repair and renovation. They did not expect unchanging permanence. They understood that maintaining civilization required continuous effort. When effort ceased, decay began. They accepted this. They did not design for maintenance-free permanence. They designed for occupied functionality. We maintain the ruins as ruins. We preserve them in their damaged state. This is different from Maya practice, but appropriate for our situation. We did not build these structures. We inherited them. We did not use them for their intended purposes. We used them for our purposes: education tourism, research, heritage, our maintenance serves our purposes, which is honest. We make no claim to restore original function, only to preserve enough for our contemporary uses. The field season ends. The archaeologist reviews notes, photographs, measurements, artifact catalogs. The data accumulated over months. The knowledge extracted from soil and stone through patient, careful work. The season answered some questions, raised many more. This is the nature of archaeology. Each answer reveals more questions. The understanding deepens, but never completes. Next season will continue the work. New excavations, new analysis, new. The process continues year after year, decade after decade. Some sites have been worked for a century, still producing new information, still revealing surprises. The Maya left so much. We have recovered so little. The work will continue for generations, but the archaeologist knows something important. The work is preservation. Every excavation is also destruction. Every artifact removed loses context. Every structure exposed faces accelerated decay. Archaeology destroys what it studies carefully, methodically, scientifically, but destruction nonetheless. The original configuration is disturbed, the information extracted, the material altered. This cannot be undone. Modern archaeology therefore excavates minimally, leaves most sites untouched, uses non-invasive methods when possible, ground-penetrating radar, LiDAR, aerial photography, systematic surface survey, excavates only when necessary, documents extensively, preserves everything possible. The philosophy has changed. Early archaeology was treasure hunting with academic justification. Modern archaeology is information extraction with preservation emphasis. But extraction changes what is extracted. Observation affects what is observed. The archaeologist knows this, works carefully, accepts the paradox, destroys minimally to preserve maximally, takes from the past to give knowledge to the future. The trade-off is worthwhile, but remains trade-off. The notes are complete, the photographs archived, the artifacts cataloged. The season concludes. The site is stabilized for the off-season. Tarps protect open excavations. Backfill covers sensitive areas. Security measures prevent looting. The site sleeps until next year, when more questions will be asked, more answers will be found, more mysteries will deepen. This is how knowledge advances, not through sudden revelation, but through patient accumulation. Each season adds data. Each year refines understanding. Each generation builds on previous work. The Maya civilization becomes slightly clearer, still fragmentary, still incomplete, but less unknown than before. The day ends, the light fades, the shadows lengthen, the pyramids become silhouettes again. The cycle completes. Tomorrow will bring another sunrise, another day, another repetition of the pattern that has continued for billions of years. The Maya ruins witnessed thousands of these sunsets during their occupation, witnessed hundreds of thousands during abandonment will witness thousands more before they collapse completely. Each sunset identical in physics, each unique in details. The clouds different, the humidity variable, the temperature shifting, but the fundamental pattern constant. Rotation of the earth creating the appearance of sun moving across sky, light and shadow, day and night, the cycle continuing. The Maya watched these sunsets. They understood the astronomy. They knew the sun did not actually move around the earth. At least, some Maya astronomers understood this. They could calculate solar positions, predict solstices, measure the year with precision. Their knowledge was scientific, their interpretation mythological, but the observations were accurate. We watch the same sunset. We understand the physics better. We explain it through gravity and rotation and orbital mechanics. But the experience is identical. The same photons scattered by the same atmospheric phenomena, creating the same colors. The knowledge changes. The phenomenon persists. This continuity across time matters. We are not so different from the Maya. Different technology, different society, but same species, same brains, same capacity for wonder and fear and hope and despair, same ability to create beauty and knowledge and meaning. Same vulnerability to forces beyond our control. The Maya failed, but they achieved first. For 600 years, they built one of the great civilizations. They created art that moves us 1,200 years later. They discovered knowledge we still use. They left monuments that inspire awe. The failure does not negate the achievement. Both are real. Both matter. The last light touches the glyphs. For a moment, they are perfectly illuminated, readable, clear, the carved symbols standing out against shadow. Then the light moves past. The glyphs fall into darkness. The day ends. But the glyphs remain. Darkness does not erase them. They existed before the sunset. They will exist after. The light made them visible temporarily. The darkness hides them temporarily, but they persist regardless. Information encoded in stone. Surviving light and darkness, day and night, observation and neglect. This is the power of stone. It persists. Not forever. Nothing is forever, but longer than organic materials, longer than memory, longer than traditions. The stone remembers when humans forget. The glyphs preserve what oral tradition loses. The architecture testifies when texts burn. The Maya left their knowledge in stone. They could not know whether anyone would ever read it. They carved it anyway, because creating meaning required it, because preserving memory demanded it, because building civilization meant recording achievement. They left messages for a future they could not predict. Those messages survived. We have received them, partially, imperfectly, but genuinely. The light disappears. The glyph becomes invisible, but it remains, waiting for tomorrow's sunrise, waiting for the next observer, waiting with stone patience for the cycle to continue. The information persists, the meaning awaits, the stone endures. Darkness complete, the ruins invisible now, except to eyes adjusted to starlight. The jungle settles into night rhythms. The insects sing. The frogs call. The night birds hunt. Life continues regardless of human presence. The forest does not pause because we cannot see it. The world continues, whether observed or not. The pyramids stand in darkness, as they have stood for 800 years, as they will stand for centuries more, silent, patient, enduring. The stones exist, the information persists, the achievement survives in material form, even though the civilization that created it ended 1,200 years ago. This is not tragedy. This is simply history. Civilizations rise. Civilizations fall. The pattern repeats. The Maya are one example among many. Their collapse was not unique. Their achievements were not unique. Their lessons are not unique. But all of it matters because we learn from the past, because understanding history helps navigate the present, because recognizing patterns helps anticipate futures. The Maya teach us that sophistication does not prevent collapse. That knowledge does not guarantee survival. That achievement does not ensure permanence. But also, that beauty has value even if temporary. That knowledge matters even if lost. That meaning exists even if civilization fails. The ruins stand. The darkness settles. The night continues. And somewhere in the distance, so faint it might be imagination, a door closes. The last sound of a vanished world, the echo fading into silence, the story complete. The jungle breathes, the stars turn, the ruins wait, and perhaps, eventually, so do we all sleep.